you can eat fat to the point that it will not absorb and enough of it will go out and it will give you diarrhea. So if you're getting constipated, then you're not eating enough fat to spill over to keep that soft. Okay? So eat enough fat and eat enough protein. And that's the thing. You just eat fatty meat with about that ratio until it stops tasting good, and your body will tell you. If you're working out, if you're lifting weights, that will increase your taste, and demand for food will naturally increase. Question from Joe. The other night I had extreme pain in the region where the liver gallbladder sits. Assume it was an issue with the gallbladder, the gallstone, because of my high amounts of cholesterol on carnivore. Yeah, I don't believe for a second that having high cholesterol actually causes gallstones. I don't think that's true. I think it's actually the opposite. I think it's avoiding fat, avoiding eating meat and fat is what actually gives you gallstones, because you build up bile in your gallbladder in order to await a time when you actually get fat. Because like predators, like humans, don't eat 6 times a day. They don't have 3 meals and 3 snacks. That's not how that works in nature. So the gallbladder stores bile and then concentrates it. That's its job. It concentrates the bile. So it has two major functions, which is to store the bile and to concentrate the bile. So your liver keeps making this, and it gets in there. And obviously, it's not that big. It's a pretty small organ, and it will, it has to concentrate in order to fit more bile in there, because you need to store up sometimes a few days of bile in there. So that's or several days. If you don't eat for a week, you're going to need a lot of energy in that one go. So that's what it's doing. That's what it's designed to do. And so if you're not eating fat, that means that your bile is going to sit there and get more concentrated, more concentrated, more concentrated. Textbooks say it gets up to about 20 times more concentrated. Okay. Well, what happens to any hyper-concentrated solution at rest? It builds up, it forms precipitate, it forms crystals, which is what bile sludge is and what gallstones are, I believe. I think that's just basic chemistry. And if we think about our physiology properly, that is what is going on. And when you talk to people who have had gallstones, it's generally those who went on a diet to try to lose fat and lose weight, and they say, oh, if you want to lose weight, if you want to lose fat, you got to stop eating fat. And so they stop eating fat, and all of a sudden they get gallstones after a few months of this. So many people do that as well and don't get gallstones. So I think it might be something to do with, if someone concentrates more than other people, maybe they build it up and others don't. But either way, if you are eating enough fat, if you're eating a lot of fat, then you're going to be using that bile all the time. It's never going to get concentrated. It's never going to be able to form a stone. And so, hey, no. And sorry, frantic cat. So if you just keep eating fat, you're never going to build up the bile in the first place to form a stone. So cholesterol is just a scapegoat. They just started looking for everything. Oh, look, there's a little bit of cholesterol here in these arteries. Must be because you're high cholesterol. There's gallstones. Bile is made out of cholesterol, or it's used to make bile, and so gallstones must be from too much cholesterol. That doesn't make any damn sense. Why aren't our all of our cells just breaking down and dying because of all the cholesterol? All your cells are made out of cholesterol. Your brain has a large portion of it made out of cholesterol. So no, I don't believe that for a second. And and people that are carnivore, we're not getting gallstones if you're eating enough fat. In fact, I've seen people go the other way and have bile sludge and gallstones and feel very uncomfortable, and this seems to resolve it. Now, if you have big enough stones and those get caught, like you're going to need a procedure to get those out. There's no sort of dodging that. That's sort of the horses out of the barn at that point. But if you're not yet at that point, then then this could potentially resolve. Potentially, we don't have proof of that yet, but there are people that have reported their symptoms have gone away. And if your stones are small enough, those could potentially just pass safely, because now you're eating fat, so you're just squishing this stuff out and you're moving things along. Or it could be that they sort of start dissolving now when you start moving out this super concentrated bile. But if you talk to people, that's what happens when they get gallstones, is that they generally get, so the 4Fs, 5Fs really: female, fertile, 40s, fat, fair. So like, Caucasians, women get it more. And so, what is that? And that could be a thing, maybe in other ethnic, backgrounds, they still have more genetics, like, hey, it's longer between meals, whereas like in Europeans maybe have had agriculture longer, so they had, more steady meals or something like that. Who knows? But either way, what is that commonality there? Someone, a woman in her 40s, probably had a couple kids, has some extra baby weight, metabolism slowing down, and they want to lose weight, they want to lose fat. And so what do? They go on a low-fat diet or a no-fat diet. And all of a sudden, their bile's building up, turns into gallstones, and then all of a sudden, ooh, they got this pain when they try to eat fat again, because it's miserable not eating fat. And you go to the doctor and say, like, ooh, he's like, oh, you've got gallstones. That's because you eat too much fat. And it's like, they haven't eaten fat in 6 months. Like, what are you talking about? So that I talk, so many people I've spoken to, and I've sort of laid that out. Like, this is what I would predict this looks like if this physiological phenomenon were true. And I can't tell you how many people told me, like, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened to me. Maybe people here have had the same experience, can comment and let us know. But that's been my experience with it. I have, quote unquote, high cholesterol. I don't ever have problems with my gallbladder. So you can get pain in that area, so the upper right quadrant, for other reasons. Could be your gallbladder. Gallbladder can get inflamed for other reasons. And again, if you have gallstones and you go on a carnivore diet and that starts moving these things around, those can get stuck, be a problem, and you may need an intervention or even surgery to help with that. But that's not the carnivore diet, the high-fat diet that caused that. Certainly not your high cholesterol that caused that. That was a problem that you've had for a long time, and now this is sort of bringing it out because you're eating more fat and you're stimulating your gallbladder. However, it's, if you are having gallbladder pain because there's something getting stuck, that happens after a meal. You eat a fatty meal and that triggers your gallbladder to go. So if you're not getting that, then I wouldn't expect this to be your gallbladder or gallstone. If it's happening just in just in the middle of the night, not around at a meal time or after a meal, then I wouldn't really expect that to be. So it can be a lot of things, but if you're worried about it and it's ongoing, you can see your doctor about it. But no, I wouldn't say cholesterol and carnivore would cause that at all. I have actually really no doubt of that in my mind. Hope that helps. Deez, thank you for the super chat. I often have low appetite on carnivore, and I'm afraid that I'm not eating enough protein to avoid muscle loss or bone health issues. Recommendations on minimum macro ratios on protein. It's hard to say, because the thing is that everyone's different. We need different amounts of protein and fat at different stages. If you're smaller than you want to be, or smaller than you probably should be, a sort of unhealthy weight, you're going to need a lot more. You're going to need a lot more protein and fat and everything like that. So it really just goes by what your body's asking you for, and so you need to listen to your body and give it what it needs. So the way I do it is go by taste. And yes, it's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. So it's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. And so you have to relearn your hunger signals, because your hunger signals are going to be very muted. When you're eating carbohydrates and sugar and things like that, it actually makes your body think you're starving in a way. And I talk about this in different videos, the mechanisms of insulin and leptin doing this. And so when you go on a carnivore diet, you cut out all the carbs and sugar and things like that, that goes away. And so now your hunger signals are much more muted. And so it's easy to undereat. So what you do is you go by taste. So if it tastes good, keep eating. If meat tastes good, your body's telling you that it wants those nutrients, and so you keep eating until it stops tasting good because it has negative feedback. So every time you eat a little, meat, it just tastes a little less good and a little less good and a little less good until eventually it doesn't really particularly taste good at all. And then you go. That's it. You're done. You don't need to eat anymore. So that's what I would do. As far as the only macro ratio I'm looking at is generally you try to hit around 1 gram of fat to 1 gram of protein, up to 2 grams of fat to 1 gram of protein, and somewhere in that range, most people will fall. You might need a little more protein. You might need a little more fat than other people. So just aim for that. See how you do. I have podcasts that I've done, short ones, Carnivore for Beginners and Fiber, Constipation, and Diet, that sort of tell you how to figure that out on how much your body needs. So I would just go by that and ultimately go by taste and just keep eating fatty meat until it stops tasting good, and you'll be fine. But I should say the reason that I harp on this about undereating is because I did it. 23 years ago when I was doing this, I never felt hungry. I would go literally 4 days without eating, working out we'd start training at 3:30 in the afternoon for my for university team, and then I'd play, the premiership men's team straight after that, and I go to the gym sometimes, and so I could be done at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and it'd be from 3:30 to 10 or 11 every day, and then I'd play at least 2, if not 3 or 4 games on a weekend. And I was not eating for like 4 days in a row, and it eventually got to the point where I was way too lean, and I was just wearing my body down, and I was like, okay, what the hell's going on? I mean, why am I feeling worse when I work out? And like, it must be eating. I was just not eating enough. I'm going like sometimes 2 days, and at least 1 day, at a time. Like it's common for me not to eat on a daily basis, and sometimes it'd be much longer than that because I just never felt hungry. And I was thinking, I was like, well, it must be I'm not eating enough, but I am just not hungry. And so I just said, okay, it doesn't matter. You just got to eat. Just eat every day. Just got to eat. And every time I ate, it tasted amazing. So it was just like, okay, so I could do that, but I had to tell myself to do this. Now I know this consciously because I spent 5 years doing that. And now I know my hunger signal, so I know what hunger feels like. So you have to relearn that. To relearn those hunger signals, and just go by taste. Try to eat every day. Eat until fatty meat stops tasting good, and try to look for these more subtle signals of hunger. Okay, what are your thoughts on sardines? I've been eating a can daily for the last week, but heard that Joe Rogan had arsenic poisoning after 3 cans a night. Oof, I have no idea. There really shouldn't be that much arsenic in any food product. I haven't looked into sardines. I'm very surprised that there would be that much arsenic or any arsenic in sardines. If there is, I would not eat it. There are people doing like the sardine sort of fast where they just eat sardines for several days or a week or whatever. I haven't really heard of them getting sick from it. I mean, I don't see any problems with sardines generally. I mean, I don't know if there's any way you can find out if yours in particular has any sort of contamination with arsenic. Really, I mean, 3 cans is very small. I mean, so if there's that much arsenic, I mean, that's a contaminated batch that would need to be recalled for public safety. And I would hope that it would. But if you're feeling fine, and not arsenic-y, then it should be okay. But I don't know. I would look into it. Maybe look into what brand that Joe Rogan had an issue with, and see if anyone else is getting problems, and look up the symptoms of arsenic poisoning. And if you're feeling bad at all, just cut them. Having sardines every now and then, good source of omega-3s. Other fish are as well. They're low down on the food chain, so you generally don't have a buildup of heavy metals. So I wouldn't really expect them to be too bad, but I don't know. That's a bit scary. But if you're feeling okay and you're feeling fine, wouldn't worry too much about it. But maybe just try to check for the brand and see if there's some sort of recall or something like that. If there was, you would hope you would heard about it, but maybe just look that up just to be safe. Thank you, Nisi, for the super chat. 68-year-old breast cancer survivor, finished chemo 13 months ago. Well, that's great. On anastrozole for 8 months, carnivore diet for 6 months. Still fatigued, no weight loss, poor sleep. Could issues be hormonal due to anastrozole? Yes, they could. I mean, you know, at 68, you're not going to have much estrogen anyway. So anastrozole is basically an estrogen blocker. So, Jesus, blanking. Anyway, it blocks conversion of testosterone into estrogen, and women make testosterone first, and then that converts into estrogen. But you know, past menopause, you know, women make very little estrogen, but you do still have some generally. It could be, you know, some women that go on like HRT find that this helps with weight loss and how they feel and everything like that. Probably not an option for you given your history, but there are other things as well that can be at play here. What you should do is probably just dive into your bloods, get your thyroid checks, your TSH, your free T4, your free T3, and a reverse T3. See if there's anything going on there. Obviously, that's a major component of your metabolism, major hormone for your metabolism. You can certainly check your high sensitivity estrogen, will probably be extremely low or maybe undetectable. Testosterone, women need testosterone just like men need estrogen, just in smaller amounts, and having too little can cause problems as well. And vitamins, minerals, all these other sorts of things, you know, so B12, folate, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, and leptin, and fasting insulin, and fasting glucose. I would check those. Those are all going to be markers of your metabolism, see what's going on. There are people that take a long time to lose weight. Some people don't lose as much weight as they want to. Sometimes it just stabilizes. So the main thing you need to focus on is your health, how you feel, how your energy levels are, how you're sleeping, all these sorts of things. So you're still fatigued and poor sleep, so that's not good. Try to maybe focus on those as well. You know, what's keeping you from sleeping properly, you know, optimizing your sleep, turning off lights, getting blue blocking glasses, putting on a sleep mask, going to sleep at the same time every night. You could even try a bit of melatonin. Depending on where you are, it might be prescription, it might be over the counter, and you can try that. Melatonin only works if lights are off, you know, so you need to turn off the lights, turn off screens, get off phones at least an hour before you want to be asleep, okay? And even if you take melatonin, the light's going to drive that out. If you don't take melatonin, your brain's not going to make the melatonin in the first place, or not much of it. So that all can have an effect as well. And you can even get your IGF-1 and your IGF BP3, your binding protein, checked as well. All of these things can affect weight loss, especially things like leptin. People that have higher leptin resistance from years of insulin resistance, blocking leptin and screwing up your metabolism. Years of that, you can get leptin resistance. It's very difficult to lose weight when you have leptin resistance. But the good thing about is that on carnivore diets or really any just dropping carbs in general, your insulin comes down, your leptin starts to come down. But until that comes, if it's very high, until that comes down to like a reasonable level, you're going to find it very difficult to lose weight. And so you look at Kelly Hogan, she actually put on weight for 6 months or so, and then just something snapped and she started dumping off weight. But the fatigue and the poor sleep, you know, that could be something else going on as well. Even though you're eating a carnivore diet, I don't know exactly what kind of carnivore diet you're eating. I don't know exactly what nutritional background you're coming from. And some people need a bit more help. Maybe they need a bit more liver a couple times a week. Maybe they, you know, are still going to be a bit lacking in nutrients, and they need some more nutrient dense sources like liver, heart, kidney, things like that, adding in some of the organs. and check your bloods to see what's going on. You could have the MTHFR gene mutation, have low folate and B12 as a result of that. You could have absorption issues, have pernicious anemia, you have other autoimmune issues that are causing an issue with your absorption. And so you need to get checked for those things. So I would check it, just check those. And there's one gentleman I was speaking to just recently, and he had very, very low energy and brain fog and all these sorts of things. And he was doing everything right from a diet perspective. He was doing it for about 3 months. I was like, oh, it really should be through this by now. We took a look at all his bloods, and there were a couple of things a little off, but his B12 was actually quite low, and that could be an absorption issue again. And he got a B12 shot, and he said, just boom, there's like lights came on. And he's just like, all his energy problems and brain fog just went away. So you need to check. So I would check all those things. Don't just leave it to chance. You know, if you're having problems, check your bloods. Most people, if you're just doing fine, checking your bloods is sort of academic. But if you're not doing your best, then you definitely want to check. So that's what I would do. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this replay of my YouTube Live. If you'd like to catch a live version and ask your own questions, please go to the next scheduled one, usually every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, see you then, and please enjoy the rest of the Q&A. Boom. Thank you very much for the super chat. Question: Carnivore on day 120. I did a few water fasts recently and noticed elevated mental clarity, better sleep, more creativity, among other benefits. Why does this happen? Thank you very much. That is likely due to just increased ketone levels, probably. So, you know, even if you're eating a carnivore diet, I mean, your ketones will be, you know, elevated. They'll be at a good level. But a lot of people find that when they just don't eat at all, they're not bringing anything in. So even the amount of protein, you get a bit of a rise in blood sugar, a bit of a rise in insulin. So you might reduce your ketone levels a bit and keep you in sort of a lower grade ketosis, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I mean, you know, we're designed to eat meat, and our body's going to work the way it's supposed to work when we do that. But we're also, you know, designed to not eat every day necessarily. It's not that it's bad for us to eat every day, I don't think, but it's certainly not required for us to eat every day. And we're designed to weather that. And so your ketone levels are going to go up because you're keeping your insulin really low, blood sugar really low as your ketones go up. So I would expect that to be what it is. A lot of people do notice that when they fast, even on a carnivore diet, that their ketones really go up. And that's why I talk about, you know, people with cancer and they need to modulate their GKI, glucose ketone index, that they might need to incorporate fasting and refeeding as well, just to keep that GKI nice and low, blood sugar nice and low, and the ketones nice and high. So that is what I would expect is happening there. Your ketones are higher. Your brain runs primarily on ketones. That's your brain's optimal fuel source. And so you have more of it, brain turns on even more. So I would say that's what's going on. That's what that is. Carnivore Joe, thanks for the super chat. Hello, Doc, and other carnivores. # meat heals. Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. Good to see you. Josh Hibben, thank you very much for the super chat. Sorry if I'm sure I've mispronounced your name. Dr. Chaffee, would carnivore help my grandpa who has very severe Alzheimer's? What kind of improvements would be realistic for a severe case? Would keto be just as beneficial, or just have to be carnivore? Thank you. So I think any ketogenic diet is going to help. I think a carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet. I think it's the best ketogenic diet. But ketosis is the key with this one, because that's when the brain turns on. And so your brain, like I just said, runs primarily on ketones. Alzheimer's being called type 3 diabetes. So this is insulin resistance. And you get insulin resistance of the brain. Now blood sugar can't get in, the brain can't run properly. And it just starts slowing down and degrading. You're probably doing a low-fat, so-called heart-healthy diet, and now you are maybe taking, you know, some sort of medication, you know, like statins that lower cholesterol. Some of these can cross in the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain, stop your brain from making cholesterol, which is a major structural component of the brain. There are cases in the literature of people having reversible Alzheimer's because they've been on a statin like atorvastatin, Lipitor, that can cross the blood-brain barrier, and they take them off the statin. 6 weeks later, all of a sudden they don't have Alzheimer's anymore. Put them back on the statin. 6 weeks later, all of a sudden they have Alzheimer's again. So, your brain needs cholesterol, and these drugs can stop your brain from making cholesterol. So something to consider when people are, considering whether or not they want to go on a medication or have a family member go on a medication. Also, again, because of the insulin resistance, if you switch over to ketosis, you have high ketones, all of a sudden that bypasses that. You don't need insulin for ketones. They go straight into your brain, and your brain lights up. And your brain always runs on ketones, always. Any ketones that are available, your brain's running on them. And this is why I call it your brain's preferred energy source. So people say it's glucose because they say our primary metabolic state is the fed state, and on the fed state we're running more on glucose than ketones. But that's just you're assuming a fact that's not in evidence. You're assuming that they named that correctly. They're assuming that is our primary metabolic state. It's not. I don't think it is at all. I think that so-called fasting stage is our primary metabolic state. That's where all of our heavy machinery comes to bear, and that's our metabolic state when we eat anything except carbohydrates, like our natural diet, carnivore diet. And so when you look at your brain, I learned this in biochemistry 20 years ago, your brain's always running on some ketones. So it runs on any ketones that are there, and it fills in the gaps with glucose. And so if you have a little bit of ketones, your brain's running on those ketones, and it has to fill up the rest with blood sugar, right? And so, but as you get more and more ketones, your brain runs on those ketones, and you start lessening the amount of glucose coming in until the point that it gets to a threshold that it can only run on ketones. It doesn't run on sugar at all, at least for most of the brain cortex things. There's some parts that still will take in some glucose. Good news, you have blood sugar when you're in ketosis. So that's why I say it prefers it, right? Because even in the presence of high blood sugar or normal blood sugar, if you have ketones, your brain's running on ketones. That's the preference, right? So when you do that, when you go on to ketosis, most people with Alzheimer's, even severe Alzheimer's, will see significant improvement in their cognition within a couple of days, right? Just because the energy source is different on their brain, right? So their brain is now running on its optimal fuel source, right? So that's very significant, I think. And then all of a sudden now your brain is starting to can repair. It's not gonna go back to what he was when he was 20, but it can make a significant improvement. If he's really, really bad, I don't know where that ends up, but I can tell you that it will improve, because the brain is going to be running on different energy and a better energy source that doesn't require insulin. And also those ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier, and they actually reconstitute into fatty acids, which then are get used as the structural components of the brain. You can actually rebuild the brain potentially, right? And so there are people doing this and reversing Alzheimer's and rehabbing people like your father. I don't know how serious his case is, but I've seen very serious cases significantly help, where people are in nursing homes, that's end stage Alzheimer's, and they're getting to the point where they can go home, right? That's amazing. And the fact that Alzheimer's wasn't described until the early 1900s, and there was no disease before that by that name or any other that described Alzheimer's, tells you something significant. This did not come naturally. This is not a genetic issue. This is an environmental issue. Something in our environment did this to us, right? We just didn't live that long. Bullshit. If you made it past early adulthood, certainly childhood, the infant mortality rate was very high before the 20th century, very high. And so, that brought down the average life expectancy for birth. People weren't just dying of old age in their 30s. That's ignorant. That's just simply just not understanding basic math and statistics. This is an average from birth. And so when 3 out of 5 kids die in infancy, the other 2 people have to live a long time. And probably one of those other ones died at 14 in the Civil War. So, this is not true, that we just didn't have any old people. We just don't know what aging looks like. Of course we do. Socrates was 76 or 78 when they killed him. They had to kill him. You know, he was still out there causing trouble in Athens. Alexander the Great, dude was in his 20s, but his generals were in their 70s. One of his generals was, like, I believe, 78, leading from the front. He led his cavalry. And so a 78-year-old man in full armor, hacking with a sword and everything like that, 78, you know, right? That's not when people were dying. People lived a hell of a lot longer and much more healthily than we do now. People are just turning to dust now. So there's a guy named Hal Cranmer, very nice guy, and I interviewed him. He has a number of nursing homes in Arizona, and he's doing this. He's applying these principles. So there's a study that showed that putting Alzheimer's patients on a ketogenic diet, and it's like a high-fat, meat-based diet with no carbohydrates and being in ketosis, that this was a better treatment for Alzheimer's than every medication ever trialed for Alzheimer's. So he took those principles, he saw how carnivore was helpful, and he said, okay, I want to feed my patients the best thing that they can get. Started putting them, you know, talking to the family, talking to them, hey, can you do this? These are the principles. This is what I'm trying to accomplish here. Some are on board, some are not. Some are just on board with keto, some are on board with carnivore, but at least keto makes the difference. It's that energy change in the brain. And he's rehabbing people. They're getting better. One person, you know, just lifeless in the bed all day, and now is out there tending the garden, you know, planting, you know, roses and things like that. And others are able to go home with their family. So, you know, that's something I'm going to be putting out in the next sort of week or two. I might try to get it out this Sunday or possibly next Wednesday. Stay tuned. So keep an eye out for my YouTube premieres, because I'll try to get that one out in the next week or so. But that, I would absolutely say it would be beneficial. I have no doubt in my mind that it will be beneficial. How much he can improve, I don't know. I hope a lot. I hope to the point of gaining his independence back. I can't say for sure. Everyone's at a different stage and everyone responds a bit differently. But I really hope so. There are people who have been able to go home and to rehab and to get their independence back, or at least a large part of their independence, or enough of it that the family can take care of them at home, and at least they can enjoy their life with their family at home. So I really hope that that's the case with your grandfather. And I hope you can convince him to do it. Plant sparing carnivore, thank you very much for the super chat. Some say there's a difference in glycogen levels between glucose molecules converted from dietary carbs and gluconeogenesis. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee, you're awesome. Difference in glycation level between glucose molecules and dietary carbs. I wonder about that. So glycation being, you know, when glucose molecules physically fuse to other molecules, and this is what your HbA1c is. That's a glycation end product from glucose and hemoglobin, and there are other ones. So like fructose has a different end product, right? So that's so, you know, if you're getting, you know, and it can be have more glycative action than glucose, right? So, but you can't measure that with HbA1c. It's a different end product. So that's specifically with glucose. There's going to be ones with galactose and ribose and all these other sorts of things, probably. But the glycation level, I don't know. The glucose, I mean, glucose is glucose. It's just the same molecule. We are making that same molecule. So I would expect that it is the same molecule and probably has the same properties of glycation. The difference being that when you're bringing in dietary carbohydrates, you're also bringing in fructose. You know, we don't make an abundance of fructose, right? So we don't necessarily see that as an issue. So if you're taking in dietary carbs, you're just getting in different carbohydrates, not just glucose, and those have different glycation properties, and fructose certainly does. It's supposed to be, I don't know how exactly, but if I remember correctly, something like 4 times more potent and glycating. So, you know, that could be that's being referred to, is that you're just getting different molecules that have more glycative properties. But I would expect the glucose and the glucose, the glucose we make and the glucose you eat to be the same, because it's still the same molecule, but sugar is half fructose, and that's definitely going to be worse. So I think that's probably what that's referring to. But the glucose molecules should be the same. I wouldn't know why they would be different. But yeah, you get other stuff in with the dietary carbs. My Apex Odyssey, thank you very much for the super chat. A relative, 20-year-old male, has had essential tremor since age 7, no underlying cause. Also, ADHD, anxiety, depression, any indication that carnivore might help. I'm trying to convince him to try. Well, it definitely can help ADHD, anxiety, and depression. So that's work done from Dr. Georgia Eade and Professor Chris Palmer. He's a professor of psychiatry over at Harvard. They've both been doing yeoman's work on this subject and showing that this is a metabolic mitochondrial disease, and that you fix the mitochondria and you go on a ketogenic diet like a carnivore diet. And I think that's the best ketogenic diet. It also eliminates out all the different plant toxins, which can affect your brain chemistry. I've certainly noticed in myself. I can get depressed with exposure to like leafy greens and things like that. I don't know. I mean, you're a kid, it's just like you get depressed eating vegetables, and like now as an adult, I'm like, no, I actually get depressed eating vegetables. So, that's what I prefer, just nothing. And I see people like Jordan Peterson. I've seen other people that still have anxiety and depression problems, and they're doing keto, like strong meat-based keto, just some salads, and then they dump the salad, they dump the greens, and anxiety significantly improves. But specifically with and a lot of these plant toxins can damage the mitochondria as well. So it can still comes down to the mitochondria. But being on a ketogenic diet, we see that people after several months or a few months, they have 4 times the number of mitochondria, and they are 4 times as effective. So these are in your brain as well, and this is making your brain work better. And so you can watch and maybe even try to get him to watch the episode I did with Dr. Palmer. So so like the best diet for mental health or something like that. But anyway, it's on my channel where I interviewed Professor Palmer, and we go through this, and he talks specifically about ADHD, depression, anxiety, essential tremor. I have seen that improve. I'll have to look it up. I'm sure there probably are studies in ketogenic diets with essential tremor. There are a lot of studies with ketogenic diets, and the carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet. Any sort of neurological issue can be helped by this, potentially. And so I would expect that he'd probably get some improvements from that as well. Nerves take a long time, but I've seen very crazy differences in people neurologically. I did just have a patient this week who had essential tremor that has been improving quite significantly. Still minorly there, but they've only been doing this for a couple months. So, very, very early days for them. And but yes, it did help. So I would definitely give it a try. And it was also going to help him be 20. I mean, he's going to turn into a superhero going on a carnivore diet. So I don't know if he plays sports, but he's going to play them a lot better. He's going to turn into a badass. He's going to get into great shape and feel great all the time, have amazing energy at work or college or whatever he's doing. And, him being healthy, he's going to have this healthier glow around him, which is going to, be very attractive to people around him, which is going to help with his social life and his experience of everything, and that probably help reduce his anxiety and depression there as well. Just being more confident and healthy. So yes, this would definitely help him. It will help the mental health issues. I would expect it'll help the essential tremor, and it'll turn him into a badass. And like, what's not to like about that? I mean, I started this when I was 20. I turned into a god. I mean, it was just like that's very, that's very silly of me to say, but I literally felt just superhuman on a carnivore diet playing rugby. I couldn't get tired. I couldn't run out of energy. I couldn't wear myself out. I was a superhero, on the field and in training. Like, it was just like there really wasn't anyone who could touch me in fitness or anything like that, or the amount of exertion that I was putting out on the field. You know, a good friend of mine who was a professional player from Ireland, played professionally all over Europe, played for the London Irish, then came to America, was playing with us. Now he's the president of the Seawolves. When I broke my leg at 22, he said, you need to rehab your leg as quickly as possible, get back out there, because you are the most explosive player in North America right now. And that was a huge compliment coming from him. But that was because of how I put in a lot of work. I worked my ass off. I had that thing. It was like, I'm going to work harder than everybody. I'm going to be first in every drill, every sprint, every race, everything, every time. And on the field, I'm going to be first one there to everything, every time. Everything's a dead sprint. Not going to dog it on any play. Everything's a dead sprint. And but because of my diet, I was able to do that and do it better and better and better and better. And I started that when I was 20, 21. And so he's right there, and he's just, man, like his life will change dramatically. So I don't know, maybe show him this bit, and maybe that'll convince him, and show him that the interview with Professor Palmer, it will absolutely change his life. I have no doubt in my mind. And maybe hear about it in a couple months on how he's doing. Emotional support paintbrush, thank you for the super chat. I know only meat is best, but what are the less bad condiments for transitioning? Mustard, herbs, vinegar. I have CRPS, trying carnivore for more relief. Anything with a strong flavor is going to probably have more of these sort of defense chemicals. That's why we put them on there. If you put a mouthful of mustard seed in your mouth, I mean, you're just gonna be spitting it up, vomiting, all that sort of stuff, because your brain is just like, Jesus, no, get it out. And so, maybe a bit of vinegar. Vinegar is sort of an oxidation product of alcohol, so I'm a bit wary of that and what that does. I haven't really looked in exactly into what that does as well, but you just try. You can try, white pepper. White pepper is better than black pepper, and you can just see what small amounts of things work for you, see how you feel with them. If one makes you feel a bit worse, then don't use it. But if you can tolerate some spices and some seasonings, and it helps you succeed at this, then do it. And eventually, when you get used to just eating meat, and your taste for meat starts improving, it will. You'll just love the taste of meat, and you really won't want spices after a while. Then you just try 30 days without them and see how you feel. You're going to feel better. And so you can just try that. But in the meantime, if you need a bit of seasonings and sauces or whatever, I would avoid more of the sauces, because it's going to have a lot of stuff in there. Generally have a lot of soy or sugar and all that sort of stuff that you would want to avoid. So nothing with sugar, nothing with soy, and just try little bits, see how you go, and then just see how you feel. Like if you tolerate something and you feel okay with it, that's fine. I would try at some point, not not having any, and see how you feel. But for now, if you need it, then just trial and error. Start with some white pepper and go from there. Damian Williams, thank you for the super chat. Doing sprint workouts, awesome. 5 by 100 meters at 50% to 80%, then 5 100 meters at 100%. Walk back to start. Occasionally get hamstring strain during max set. Plenty of water and electrolytes. 1 to 2 weeks to recover with no pain. Help. Okay, so we're talking about hamstring strain. Okay, so maybe you're just not quite there where you can really max it out at 100. So keep it top it at like 80%, so you're not pulling any muscles. If you're doing carnivore, that should be less. So you didn't mention in there if you're doing that as well. So because you're here, I assume that you probably are leaning that way. But if you're not all the way there, get all the way there. And 100% carnivore, high fat, meat only. Don't eat before you work out, like for at least 5 hours. Hopefully just nothing at all that day. And just don't max it out at 100 if you're sort of pulling hamstrings and it takes you 2 weeks to recover. So you just need to build it up, and you need to sort of build up the muscles and just get more used to it. So keep it 8, or maybe not 100% for 100 meters. Drop it down, maybe 40 meters. And if you can do that without pulling a muscle, start with that, build up. then build it up to 100 meters. 100 meters is a long sprint. You know, that's a long way to go maximally. And so, you know, just cut it down, do 40 or 50. And you know, if you're doing 100 and you can't do it maximally, you know, do it at 80%. See if you can do a shorter distance maximally without hurting yourself. So you can do those. I would personally preference the shorter distance with maximal effort. But if you can't even do that, if you can't even do 40 meters at 100% without sort of hurting yourself, you can go down to 20. But, you know, it could be that you just need to build up your muscles, and you need to just sort of do, you know, sort of 80% and then build up. But it would likely be that you could do, you know, 30, 40, 50 meters max out and without hurting yourself. Then you can build up and do 60 meters and then 70 and 80 and 90 and 100. And eventually you'll be able to just sprint hard as hell for a long time. Russell Sheridan, thank you for the super chat. Oh, also guys, I have a hard stop at 12 today. So that's in 2 hours. So that's 12 my time, and that'll be 9 Pacific Standard Time, middle of the night for other people. So you probably won't care, but in 2 hours anyway. And so Russell says gallbladder refills fully every 4 to 6 hours, right? Do we digest saturated fats that the gallbladder couldn't get to? Do you know the number of grams it can digest? No, I'm not sure exactly how much grams of fat per ounce of bile, but that's also going to be different because it concentrates, and so it concentrates more and more and more, so it can fit more and more bile, so you're not just spilling over and losing it. We don't take in much fat if we don't have bile for it. So it depends on the types of fats. Mid-chain fatty acids are easier to absorb without bile, but they're still not 100%. And so like overall, it's you know, down 10-15%, something like that. I don't know the exact percent off the top of my head, but it's also going to well, when I looked at it, I still remember it's about 10-15%, but that's going to change based on the complement of fats. Like I said, MCTs are going to be easier for your body to absorb without bile. So there's more MCTs, you're going to absorb more than 10-15%. So you can absorb fat, very little. You generally have this overflow. That's why I say you can't really overeat fat, because, oh, you don't want to eat too much fat. I don't think that's a thing. Your body's making bile because it wants fat. That's an essential nutrient with essential vitamins and minerals in it. And so your body wants it, your body needs it. And so, you know, if it didn't want it, it's not going to make bile for you to absorb it. I don't think it's making a random amount of bile so it can get a random amount of fat. That doesn't make sense to me. That would be the one process in your body that were the case, if it were to be true. And so I don't believe that. And so I think that your body, I think I can trust my body. Maybe some people make an odd amount of bile. Could happen, but I think for most people that's not going to be the case. And so that's why there's that spillover. So your body's just, you know, your body's going to be your body's going to not be able to absorb past a certain point. It says, okay, this is how much we want, and then the rest of it goes out. Some will absorb, but most of the rest will go out. And this is how you know if your stools are soft, then you're getting enough fat, because you're getting past that threshold and you're getting a bit of spillover. If you're getting diarrhea, it can be a lot more fat. Or you could be taking magnesium, or drinking coffee, or tea, or artificial sweeteners. All of those things can cause diarrhea, or metformin, or other sorts of medications that can cause this sort of thing now. And but yeah, hope that helps. Okay, Fractal Beans, thank you for the super chat. Good timing for 2 weeks plus, no break, night shifts at a time on OMAD, PKD format. So that's the paleo ketogenic diet. That's the paleo medicina format, which is very high fat, like sort of 2 to 1 grams of fat to protein. Wake up at 5 p.m., shift at 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. MCT oil, okay, as doping, I guess. I guess it sort of depends where you come from, but it's so you have so you're basically on night shifts for 2 weeks and no breaks. Um, you could bring MCT oil, but you could also bring tallow or butter or dried meat or the carnivore bars, or make your own pemmican and just have that and sort of snack on it as a bar. So you can do those things as well. If you wanted some MCT oil, people put it in coffee and things like that, or you can put butter in coffee, or just butter and hot water and blend that up, drink that. But you can also fast. 12 hours is fine. If you wanted to do that, if you're getting enough fatty meat, and you're okay doing 1 meal a day or even 2 meals a day, you could eat before you go in and after you're done. That should be fine. I mean, I find that one of the best things about this diet is that I don't have to keep eating or snacking. I just do fine, as long as I'm getting enough other times, that I can do fine. And so if I'm working all day and then I'm working all night and I'm working all day the next day, I go 36 hours, I don't eat, and I feel fine. Just drink water. So there are plenty of options you can do. Yes, you can take some MCT oil or other animal fats, which I would probably prefer, and or dried meat, and just a box of meat. You just sit there sort of eating it. Or if it needs to be sort of dried, sort of snack or whatever, you can do that. Or you just fast. I mean, 12 hours is a decent amount of time. It's not an unreasonable amount of time to not eat. So just see how you feel. But you have options anyway. Pure-blooded patriot, thank you for the super chat. Hi, amazing YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Question: what argument would you offer a doctor who challenged a 56-year-old male patient about going full carnivore? Well, it certainly depends on the challenges. Generally, they're going to say, that you shouldn't do it because of your cholesterol, and this is going to cause heart disease. There's no evidence for that. I mean, there's circumstantial evidence that now looks like it's fraud. Not even looks like it's fraud. There's hard documentation and evidence to show it was fraud, that these people were frauds. You can watch my video called "The Truth About Cholesterol and Heart Disease." That gives a lot of information and background there. You can also watch my interview with cardiologist Dr. Seema Hotra, who wrote a book called "A Statin-Free Life." And he doesn't do full carnivore, but he's very high-fat, meat-based keto at the very least, and or predominantly so. And so you can look at that as well. But it really does depend on the questions and the challenges that your doctor has. So whatever those are, I probably have a video on it. And so, or someone does. Barry does. Dr. Baker does, Paul Saladino, or Paul Mason. Amazing. So a lot of these things, because Paul Mason comes at this from a very technical medical perspective, and so he has, he has things directed to, because he gives these talks at medical conferences, and so he's directing this towards clinicians who are treating their patients. And so, you have a problem, and they're talking about cholesterol and all these sorts of things. Watch my videos on cholesterol. Watch Paul Mason's video on cholesterol and heart disease and all these sorts of things, and just arm yourself with the facts. And if it's about kidneys, high protein diets do not cause kidney issue. In fact, the opposite. And I've seen people reverse, stage 4 kidney failure, and a lot of people do that. And so I've never seen anyone drop their kidney function. Now you can dehydrate yourself, and that can raise your creatinine. If you're drinking enough water, that's going to stay nice and low. Your urea might go up, but that's not the problem. The creatinine is staying low, urea is going up, and that's one of your body's best, antioxidants. So not a bad thing that thing goes up, right? So it just depends. So whatever their challenges are, whatever their questions are, whatever their concerns are, there will be a video on it, either by myself or someone else. And so just write down what he wants, write down what he's worried about. It's usually cholesterol, possibly kidney, and so just hit those, and then go with it. Or do you need? Well, you have to. You're going to have these nutrients, and you have to have them. Do you? People in the ice ages didn't. They did just fine. In fact, we became the most dominant species that has ever lived during the ice ages when we could only eat meat. Well, what about all these phytonutrients that you need? Okay, well, there are studies out showing that actually um, grass-fed meat and dairy have as much or more of these beneficial phytonutrients from plants in them because they want them too. And they come into their body and hey, doing good things for them, and they concentrate them in because they're eating a lot of them. And so now, grass-fed meat has more of these phytonutrients and none of the phytotoxins, right? So that's a benefit. So depends on what he's worried about. If he's worried about ketosis, I have a whole video on is ketosis harmful. It's 2.5 hours long. The answer is no, it's not. So, all right, hope that helps. But yeah, just look into what he does and then find videos based on that. Sorry, just trying to call people to arms here on putting it on Instagram. Sorry. There we go. All right. So, question from Josh Morris, 4NC. Thank you for the super chat. To start, how many grams of fat and protein as a baseline? A gram per pound of body weight. Thoughts on creatine, sertraline, malate, and glycerol. So look, I think as far as the creatine and sertraline and all that stuff, everything you're going to get, you should get in meat. If it's good quality meat, especially grass-fed and finished, is going to be the ideal. But however, grain finished is still going to be very good. It's going to be better than anything else. And there's tons of creatine in meat, and especially in red meat. So red meat is your best source of creatine. And you'll get the amounts of people supplement with creatine you'll just get if you're eating red meat regularly or as a staple of your diet. As far as grams of fat and protein, it depends. I don't go by grams per body weight. I don't think that's a good metric because it changes, and it's different for different people. Like if you're undernourished and people coming from plant-based diet, an undernourished diet, an under-muscled diet, a sarcopenic diet state, then you're going to need a lot more. You're going to need way more grams of protein than I would need to just stay where I'm at. And then when I'm working out, I need more, and my body just naturally tells me that. So you just go by your taste again. So eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. Try for about 1 gram of fat or 1 gram of protein, or even up to 2 grams of fat or 1 gram of protein, somewhere in that range, and see where you land up and where your body needs. And you go by how much fat. If you're getting constipated, you need more fat. I'm already eating so much more fat than I've ever eaten. Doesn't matter. You're not eating enough fat. If you're constipated, that's a definition. So, there are other things that can influence this, but you can eat fat to the point that it will not absorb and enough of it will go out and it will give you diarrhea. So if you're getting constipated, then you're not eating enough fat to spill over to keep that soft. Okay? So eat enough fat and eat enough protein. And that's the thing. You just eat fatty meat with about that ratio until it stops tasting good, and your body will tell you. If you're working out, if you're lifting weights, that will increase your taste and demand for food will naturally increase. So when I'm working out and I'm lifting weights, my appetite doubles, literally doubles. I'll eat like 2+ pounds of meat a day at rest, just sedentary. And then if I'm working out a lot, that goes up to 4 pounds easy, right? And so of fatty meat, very fatty meat. And so, that's very normal for me. And there are other people that are much skinnier than me and much lighter than me and smaller than me that eat twice that because their bodies want to build up, and maybe they've been on a vegan diet before, many have, and they need a lot more, or they've been anorexic and they need a lot more, maybe both, and they really need a lot more. So it just depends on your body. Go by taste. So I don't go by grams per body weight. You just need to get enough for what your body's asking you. You're not going to figure out through a formula how much your body needs. You just need as much. You need to satisfy and saturate your body's desire for these nutrients. Your body will tell you. You know, the thing is that you're never going to find a grams per pound is not complex enough to describe our biochemistry ever. There isn't an equation on Earth that's long enough to describe our biochemistry perfectly. The Earth is not long enough to write one. 22,000-mile long equation is not going to be enough. You're never going to find an equation complex enough to describe all the things that are going on with the 10 trillion cells that we have in our body, and the just the quintillion interactions that are going on all the time between those cells and all the different gradients and ratios of chemicals and things like that. But you're just never ever gonna do it. Good news is you don't have to. Your body tells you. That's part of the crazy complex mechanisms that we have at our fingertips here, is that your body does it for you if you allow it, if you don't get in its way and screw it up by eating the wrong things. If you eat the right things, you can listen to your body. So just do that. Eat fatty meat till it stops tasting good. Try to get that ratio that I talked about, and you'll be fine.
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Dan V, thanks for the super chat. Hi doc, I'm 6 weeks into a carnivore diet, lost 15 pounds, tons of energy, and feeling relatively good. The last few days I've been experiencing kidney and back pain. Add a little carbs and better. Any thoughts on why? No, I don't know why your back pain would be better with carbs. Normally people get back pain with carbs, as it increases inflammation, drops your ketones, which also increases inflammation. If your kidneys, sort of under the rib cage here on your back is where your kidneys are. Could be your kidneys, could be just something in that area that's a bit bothersome. I couldn't really see how carbohydrates are really going to help that in general. If your kidneys are being a bit of an issue, first thing to do is drink more water. If your kidneys are straining for something. I don't know what carbs you ate. Is this an oxalate issue, which is something that can happen. It's hard to say for sure what happens because there's no real diagnosis for it, sort of a diagnosis of exclusion or trial and error. And so if you had some carbs that had some oxalates in it and that suppressed your oxalate dumping, could that have been an issue? Potentially. But yeah, no, normally people, when they eat carbs, especially grains and things like that, their back hurts more. Mine does. I have any of that stuff, my back kills me for like 4 days. And can't see any reason why it would improve kidney pain. Obviously, it depends on what's causing the kidney pain, or if it even is kidney pain or just pain in that region. So I don't know. I would chalk it up to one of those things, and just drink a lot more water. Keep doing a carnivore diet, and if you think it's something like oxalates or something like that, you can look into like the Sally Norton protocol on having a bit of oxalates, like 50 to 100 milligrams of oxalates to sort of dampen down your body dumping it out. But without carbs, you don't need to do it with carbs. Not that carbs are the end all be all, but it does put you into a different metabolic state that I don't think is optimal. And you're raising your insulin and all that sort of stuff. If you're doing that once a day, you're not really raising all that much. And then you can think of it as like intermittent fasting, where it goes up, but then it sort of comes down eventually. You can do that. I don't think it's as beneficial as just eating meat, though. But see how you go. It's a bit interesting. A lot of these things, people get these weird sort of sensations and feelings, and generally just go away. You won't know exactly what they are. Sometimes oxalate dumping, sometimes another toxic dumping, right? So you have different toxins in your fat. Those can come out. They can cause rashes. They can cause pain. They can cause weird symptoms. You eat carbohydrates, your insulin goes up. It shuts that down. Now you're not taking out these fat-soluble toxins anymore. That could be an issue, but purely supposition. I mean, you don't have proof of any of that, but these are some things that do happen, and so that could be potentially what's happening in your case. But eventually those things go away. You get these fat-soluble toxins get out of your system, and they go, and they don't come back unless you put them there. So that's the whole idea of this: is you're not putting bad things in your body. So I'd still stick to it, and most of these things just work themselves through, and you feel fine. Jose Carnivoro, thank you for the super chat. Hey doc, question: what about iodine in meat and water only? There is iodine in meat. Depending on where you're getting it from, you can have varying amounts of iodine. If you're worried about iodine, Dr. Barry does a good video on iodine, and it's not, it's not it's pretty safe to take, and so it's fine. Sorry. So if you wanted to take it, I don't think it's too big of a deal. If people have things like Hashimoto's, you should not take iodine. That can actually make it worse. So people shouldn't just blindly take iodine. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and but also you can just check. If you're worried about your iodine content and iodine levels, just check your iodine levels. If it's low, well, the meat that you're getting is a bit deficient. Great, take a supplement. If you're not low, you don't need a supplement. So that's what I would do. I don't think you need to supplement unless you actually have a diagnosed sort of deficiency. So that's what I would do. Dakota Berlinski, thank you very much for the super chat. Dr. Chaffee, I'm a 44-year-old male with stiff person syndrome. I take IVIG infusions. I want to stop taking them. I feel amazing on carnivore diet. What are your thoughts? Thank you so much for all your input. Well, I haven't really come across that before with general, but also in terms of a carnivore diet. The thing is that carnivore can significantly help quite a lot of issues that we had no idea there was any sort of fix for. So you never know. I can't say anything specifically with this because I haven't seen anybody with it who has tried carnivore. So I don't really know, and it's not something I have too much experience with. But any neurological issue has a potential to get better because you're just giving your brain and your nervous system ketones, proper energy, and proper fuel. I think that ketones are primary fuel for our brain, and if I understand correctly, especially with the IVIG, that's an autoimmune issue, if I'm not mistaken. So if that is, I would actually think there's a good chance it would help, because I have yet to see an autoimmune issue that doesn't improve on a carnivore diet or a complete elimination diet, because that's what we're talking about here. I think that it holds through for a number of different reasons, from a number of different studies, that autoimmune issues are your body reacting negatively to something that you're eating, making antibodies towards them, and there's cross reaction called molecular mimicry to the rest of your body, and then it doesn't sensitize to your body and then just kill your body, because it actually goes away. And we see when people eliminate these things out of their diet, that the antibody levels go down too, because your body stops reacting to that thing, and you stop getting cross reaction with your body. And so if that's the case here as well, and if it is an autoimmune issue, it's very likely that that's the case, you should see an improvement. And because of being on a carnivore diet, keto carnivore diet important, that can potentially help rebuild the damage to your nervous system as well. So I would be very hopeful. I haven't come across anyone who has done that though, who has had stiff person syndrome. But I've seen a lot of people with neurological issues and certainly autoimmune issues, improvement like MS. Right. I had a lady on my podcast, Dr. Sarah, who had multiple sclerosis. She was in a wheelchair. She was becoming paralyzed, and really she was dying in her early 30s from multiple sclerosis, autoimmune disease attacking the nervous system. And she sort of came across it. She's a PhD in biostatistics. She knows how to read studies and literature. And she came across carnivore, the idea, and she started looking into it, started looking at studies and doing research. And she just went, yeah, there is something to this. And so she tried it herself. In 6 months, she was not only out of her wheelchair, but she was walking, and not only walking, but doing ballet. Crazy. And on MRI, she had her lesions were resolving, right? So it was actually healing. It wasn't just she felt better so she could walk again. No, her nervous system was actually repairing. And so I would expect that could happen with you as well. I haven't seen it though. I haven't seen that particular condition, but I would expect it. I would expect the same thing, and I think it's very probable that you would have that. So I would just go hardcore on that. Red meat and water only. It's really important for people with autoimmune issues to be very, 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 very strict on this, because anything else can kick you off. A pork chop can be a problem because they're feeding that pig a lot of crap that it's not supposed to have either. And so you can have, oh, Jesus, what did I do? There we go. And so you can have a reaction to something that the pig ate and got into its tissue because it's not being able to detoxify this stuff normally. So that's what I would do. I would stick to red meat and water, and even red meat and water, and even grass-fed and finished beef and lamb if you can get it. And I think that would be the best chance you had at fixing this. And I really hope it does. And let me know if it does. That's something that would be good to know about in case other people come up with the same problems, and we can sort of at least let them know that other people have been helped by it as well. But there are plenty of neurological autoimmune issues like MS that are significantly helped like that. Okay, let me see here. Sorry. Okay. And Rains, thank you very much for the super chat. Is it advisable for kids the age of 2 and up to only eat meat and no veggies, fruits, or carbs? And if so, how will the kid develop? Well, the kid will develop better. The kid will develop to its genetic potential, because that's what it was designed to develop with and on. And yes, I think it is. I think it is advisable. I think that is what kids should be weaned on. I think that is what kids should be raised on. And there are a lot of people in the carnivore community who have had 100% carnivore pregnancies, breastfeeding, and kids, and they've only eaten meat their entire existence since they were a single cell. So and they're developing far past the averages, not even the averages. I mean, they're off the charts. They're well, like a friend of mine in Ireland, she had 2.5 pregnancies as carnivore, and the second 2, where she did the full pregnancy as carnivore, she found that they kept bumping up her expected due date because they kept staying on ultrasound. They're like, yeah, this kid's developing way faster than we would expect. So we're actually going to push it up a week, and then push it up a week, and then push it up a week. It's like, this is crazy. This kid's developing way faster. So that's good, right? Not getting too big, right? It's because that's carbs and gestational diabetes and things like that. But developing properly. Kid's born, and they, start growing off the charts. Heads are way off the charts, like well over 99th percentile, well over. So they said like one was like 105th percentile. So I thought it was 99th percentile. You're above the whole top percentile dynamic is that you're above 99% of people. So you're in that top 1%. So how are you better than 105% of people, right? So that's sort of a funny concept, but of course that just means that you're that much higher. So this is the people in 99%, and you're another, standard deviation above that. So that's sort of what that means. But no, you do get better. The vegetables are toxic for kids as they are for adults. Fruits, sugar, toxic for kids just like they're toxic for adults. In fact, they are more so because kids are developing. We're already developed. It's not going to change as much as it will when it changes when we're developing. Kids, you only get one chance to develop, and you don't get proper nutrition, and you get these things that can damage you and curtail your development. That's it. You will never be as tall, as smart, or as athletic as you would have been. You'll still be great. You'll still be a wonderful person, but it's going to change you. It's going to change your development, and we see this in the fossil record. 10,000 years ago, there's a hard line in the fossil record. Right before agriculture, people were 5 inches taller, much healthier, better teeth, better jaws, different skull structure, longer femurs, no signs of poor wound healing or infections. And right after post-agriculture, during agriculture, 10,000 years ago, this wasn't thousands, hundreds, thousands of years of development. It was just bang right there, all of a sudden, and then onwards. 5 inches shorter, crooked teeth, smaller jaw, smaller skull, different shaped skull as well. We're the same species, and yet our skulls and bones are different shapes now. That's developmental. And so if your kid is eating veggies and fruits and carbs, they're not going to develop properly. Kids have to be in ketosis. They have to be, because that's what gets the building blocks to build your brain. And so kids are very quick, even drinking breast milk, nursing, kids are in ketosis. In utero, as a fetus, kids are in ketosis. When you're breastfeeding, drinking milk with carbs, they're in ketosis. They have to be, because that's how their brain grows. It's how your brain properly operates. And so, yes, you definitely want them just eating meat and certainly not eating carbs or vegetables and all that other toxic stuff. That kid, you give them a piece of broccoli and they spit it out, let them, all right? Their bodies and biology are telling them this is poison. Don't eat this. So don't eat it. Don't make them eat it. It's not good for them. It is bad for them. The meat gives you everything that you need, and they will develop to their genetic potential and much better than they would have otherwise. None of us developed to our genetic potential. None of us, because our mothers weren't carnivores, and during pregnancy and breastfeeding and weaning and all that sort of stuff, and we weren't carnivores all our upbringing. None of us are as tall as we should be. None of us has as big a brains as they should be. None of us are as intelligent as we should be. None of us are as athletic as we could be, right? And in fact, it probably go generationally, because probably going to take, if you look at Pottinger's cats, they fed the cats, cooked meat instead of raw meat, and they just got smaller and sicker and weaker generation after generation, and then they couldn't even breed after 3 generations. And then on the 3rd generation, they started giving them raw meat, and they were able to breed again. But it took 4 generations to breed back to the cats that were just eating raw meat. So probably the same thing. You have this epigenetic generational knock-on effect from bad nutrition. And so we're probably there. And so our kids are going to be, if we raise them as carnivores and they're at pregnancies as carnivore pregnancies, our kids are probably going to be better. They will be better than us, which is great. Their kids are going to be even better than them. Their kids are probably going to be better than them, and then you're going to keep it there. So you pass things down. People have legacies in their families and things like that. Jobs, money, businesses, whatever, houses. You can pass down carnivorism as a legacy in your family, and generation after generation after generation, your kids and their kids will get better and better and better and better and better, and they will be much better off facing the world and dealing with the problems that come with life when they're as healthy and developed as they can be. Be big, tall bastards, big, tall, smart bastards. You know, you're going to be doing well. So that's a good advantage to have and go into the world with. Big Gelato, thank you very much for the super chat. Hey, Dr. Chaffee, I had Swiss chard and kale a few days ago, and my right side is in pain. Okay, it's good information to know. Started carnivore 30 days ago. I have high-fat animal meals, but the pain started the day I had greens. So, I mean, look, you know, I mean that's a you know, direct relationship. You know, if you're experiencing that, you know, it's you know, I would listen to it. You know, get rid of it. You know, you have pain, you feel worse when you eat these things. Don't eat them. That's why I don't eat these things, because when they have slipped in or I had trialed them early on, say, oh, what does this do to me? It made me feel worse. It made me feel bad. I don't want to feel bad. I want to feel good. I want to feel good all the time. And so it's you know, it's you know, it's very different when you're just eating meat and you add something back in. But that's good. It's a good test. You test that and you just say, hey, that didn't make me feel good. I'm not gonna eat that. And so it also makes it very easy. You know, because people say, well, you have a lot of self-control just eating meat. I have no self-control. I am only eating the exact thing I want to eat. Right? There's no self-control involved. You know, it's I have no interest in eating any of these things because they make me feel bad, and I don't want to feel bad. And they will change my body in ways and make them work in pretty awful ways. And I know those ways, and I know what it does to my body. I have no interest. I have no interest in doing that. So yeah, so that's good. You know, it's good to sort of have that piece of information. Now you know. You know, people think it's like, oh, I just had some chart. Oh, can't be. You know, that can't be that these things are that bad. And then you try and like, Jesus, it actually physically hurts me. You know, and so you can you know, you can just get rid of that. And now you know that's not a good thing for your body. Lena, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Dr. Chaffee. I'm a 47-year-old female carnivore for 10 months and never felt better. That's great. Down 55 pounds, but my LDL is 182. HDL is 44, triglycerides 87, ApoB is 146. I'm having a calcium score test next week. Should I worry? I wouldn't. You know, your triglycerides are in a nice low level. Your HDL could be higher, but I'm sure it will be. Things that raise HDL, things like saturated fat, meat, and high intensity exercise. So sprinting and resistance training, especially resistance training to failure, even just push-ups, sit-ups, squats. Those things are, you know, body weight exercises, or using lighter weights if that's too much. So that can help improve your HDL as well, but your triglycerides are nice and low. So what you look at with HDL and triglycerides is triglycerides low, yes, you likely have pattern A LDL. So there's over 100 different kinds of LDL. You know, the ones you make, like the large point LDL, they're good. They're good for you. They have a biological purpose in your body, and they're important. And in fact, higher LDL and higher cholesterol in general is actually associated with longer life. So I don't get worried about that. And again, cholesterol was a scapegoat for heart disease, for sugar. You know, the sugar companies used it as a scapegoat. This is a matter of historical record. This is a fact. So you look it up. Journal of American Medical Association, 2016. They published internal memos from the sugar companies detailing how they paid off 3 Harvard professors to falsify data and publish fraudulent studies to make it appear as if cholesterol caused heart disease when it was really sugar. And there's tons of other people that they bribed and paid off, like Ansel Keys and many, many more. And one of those Harvard professors in that publication from those papers in 2016, he became the head of the USDA, and he was the one who authored and published the 1977 USDA declaration saying cholesterol causes heart disease. It changed everything. This was hotly contested for 50 years before that, at least 40. I mean, I saw papers in JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, in 56, talking about generally accepted that cholesterol causes heart disease. However, this is based on very weak evidence, very flimsy, correlational studies and this, that, and the other. It just went through and just excoriated the entire proposal. But that's the thing; they were very influential, and they just paid a lot of money to a lot of influential people to sell their integrity and sell everything that they'd worked their entire life to build up. And it was for nothing, it wasn't even for 30 pieces of silver. It was for pittance, it was for $6,500. That's the equivalent of $50,000 now. It's nothing. This is nothing, 50 grand. That's what your entire career and life's work and integrity is worth to you. That's pretty pathetic. And so those people are pretty pathetic, and more so because they destroyed the lives of billions of people. And we've spent trillions of dollars a year, every year, treating the conditions that don't need to exist. Because if you don't eat the wrong things, you just don't get them. You don't get these problems. So we're spending trillions of dollars a year on sugar and processed shit, and then we're spending double that, triple that, treating the problems that come about from eating that crap. And so it's just disgusting. And then how many billions of dollars a year are being spent on nutritional and medical research to push these products that are completely bogus? I did a post about this on Instagram, but the editor-in-chief of The Lancet, as well as editor-in-chief of New England Journal of Medicine for 20 years, said that probably around 50% of the studies, even in those top journals, are completely false, fraudulent, and corrupt. And that's just the nature of science now. And that's why you have to understand this, and you have to understand that studies aren't science. They're a tool that you can use scientifically. You can apply the scientific method to developing a study to try to describe reality. But studies don't trump reality. And so if you see people say, oh, this study says you get diabetes if you eat more red meat, and you see everyone who just eats red meat and nothing else reverses their diabetes, well, you have to be an asshole to think that that study's correct, or a fraud, or someone who's deliberately trying to mislead people, But if you really believe that, in the face of that evidence, now maybe you just haven't seen that evidence, and that's fair. But if you have, you can't unsee it. And so, I have hundreds of patients who have reversed diabetes, face-to-face patients, not even on the internet. On the internet, you're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably millions at this point around the world that have improved or reversed their diabetes going on a carnivore diet. It's nonsense. It's just nonsense. And so that's what you have to do. You have to look at first principles. You have to look at reality. Okay, this is what Einstein did. He had a mathematical equation. I proved this. You go and look at it and go like, nope, that was wrong. Because the observed facts are in conflict. So if your study is in conflict with the observed facts, it's wrong. You did it wrong. You intentionally did it wrong. You accidentally did it wrong, or it's just a shitty study. Most epidemiology is, but you can do it right. But you can also do it wrong. You can purposefully manipulate endpoints and purposefully manipulate data to saying whatever the hell you want. So if it doesn't agree with reality, it's wrong. If it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong. They say, well, if you eat more red meat, you get diabetes. And yet people with diabetes eating only red meat reverse their diabetes. So that's an experimental. That's an experiment. You tried it. It did the opposite. It's wrong. Okay. So as far as your LDL, I wouldn't worry about it. As far as your ApoB, also wouldn't worry about it, because we have no idea what that ApoB is. There's a lot of things that can raise your ApoB. And there's a great short clip from one of Dr. Paul Mason's talks on ApoB. So you can look that up on YouTube, just Paul Mason ApoB. It should be like a 5-minute clip. Just tells you like this isn't actually a useful marker. So your calcium score may be elevated. It may not. But calcium scores go up over decades. You build atherosclerosis over decades, not 10 months of a new diet, any diet. I mean, if you're smoking and drinking and eating crap for 10 months, you're going to cause a lot of problems. But even then, you're not going to build up 50% blockages unless you have some really horrific genetic predispositions for it. People smoke and drink and eat crap for decades, and those are the ones getting peripheral vascular disease and serious blockages in their arteries. So 10 months on carnivore isn't going to do that. So always remember that these tests are a snapshot in time. You don't know where they're going up and down, and you don't know about soft plaque either. Your calcium score is raised. Does that mean you have a whole bunch of soft plaque or not much small plaque? And vice versa. Like if you have calcium score of 0, you may still have some soft plaque. It's just not calcified. So always take these things into account. And also remember that you're getting this test now. You didn't get it tested a year ago before you started carnivore, so you don't know the change. And so just take that for what it is, right? And remember that if you do have an elevated calcium score and they say, well, you need to be on a statin, ask them why they would want to put you on a statin for a raised cholesterol or raised calcium score when statins raise your calcium score. Not everyone knows that, but statins increase your CAC score because they calcify these plaques. They say, oh, that's a good thing. It's calcifying these soft plaques. Okay, well, I thought that was bad. You just said it was bad. So we need to be on this medication, but that doesn't make it better. It actually makes it worse. So what's going on there? And so you just ask those questions. And yeah, well, good luck to you. That was probably more than you needed for your answer, but I hope it was helpful to you and others. Pure-blooded patriot, thank you for the super chat. One more question: is grass-finished red meat okay? It's the best. Grass-fed and finished, obviously. Don't let people trick you with words, but yeah, grass-fed and finished red meat is the best. So grass-fed and finished. If the cow is eating what it's supposed to eat, it's going to be as healthy as it can be, and that's going to be more nutritious for you as well. And so yes, that's definitely okay. But if you can't get it and you can only get grain finished, that's still better than the alternatives. Basically anything else. So don't if you don't have access to grass finished or you can't afford grass finished, grain finished is totally fine from the vast majority of people. Maybe add in a bit of liver just to make sure you're getting nutrients, once or twice a week, just a little bit, not much. Andrew, thank you for the super chat. 30-year-old male, 6'2", 210 pounds, 10-year history of weight training, 2 months on carnivore, 2 to 3 pounds of 80-20 ground beef with butter daily. Do you have a rough idea on how long to fully optimize? Still inconsistent energy performance at the gym. Yeah, you should be pretty well keto adapted at this point. There's going to be some further epigenetic sort of effects that you might see benefit from later on. That's probably an okay amount of fat, but quite often fat is your energy source. And so 80-20 ground beef is probably leaner than I would go. You can get like the 70-30, I would do that. You're adding butter. I don't know how much butter, but it may be enough. If you're getting constipated without coffee, tea, caffeine, artificial sweeteners, or magnesium supplements, you're definitely not eating enough fat. So make sure you're not constipated. You're not having hard stools. Make sure you're not taking any of those things I just mentioned that can be laxatives that can mask constipation. Because if you are taking the one or multiple of those things and you are constipated, it's just you're going to have normal stools, right? So it's going to just help get this stuff out a bit quicker and not mask that. Whereas if you take all that stuff away, if all of a sudden it uncovers that you actually are constipated, then you're definitely not eating enough fat. So make sure you're getting enough fat. Make sure you're getting enough food. Make sure you're not eating before you work out. You have terrible workouts if you eat before you go in there. I always train fasted. I always play fasted. I've always told players around me, play hungry. Always play hungry. Because there's just get that bit more of an edge when you're doing that. And if you eat a lot, especially if you eat a lot of fatty meat, your body's just going to whoop, no more. So if people eat a lot during the day, they can get tired from that. 2 months should be okay from a keto adaptation's point of view. Make sure you're getting enough fat. Make sure you're not eating really within 5 hours of training. So if you have to eat during the day or before you work out, make sure it's 5 hours plus before before you work out, and if you can, do it after. And yeah, that's usually it. And if your energy levels are still pretty low, you should get your bloods checked. Like I said, that can happen if people are just a bit off. Sometimes they can have absorption issues. If you're on certain medications, can reduce your absorption of B12, like metformin. Don't know if you're on metformin, but some people are at 30. I wouldn't expect you to be, but some people are. And there's other ones. And so, other people have absorption issues for other reasons, like pernicious anemia, where your body, attacks the areas of their stomach that release intrinsic factor, which binds to B12, which allows you to absorb that. You can't absorb B12 without that. And then some people just have strangely low B12 anyway, so it could be a genetic issue that they just need more. And so I would just check. Check your bloods, check your nutrients, check your B12, check your thyroid, check your androgens, and if there's something a little off, then you might adjust it. Adding in a bit more liver, maybe getting a B12 shot to bump you up and get you going. All those sorts of things. But so there's a list, there's a differential that you run down, and that's how I would approach it, top to bottom. Samla, thank you very much for the super chat. Regarding 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio, 1 kg of meat has approximately 200 grams of protein, 20 grams in 20 grams per 100 grams. So in real life terms, it's 200 grams of fat if eating 200 grams of protein a day. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly right. So yeah, so it's not grams of fat tissue and to grams of lean tissue. So it's not like 50-50 gram beef. It's more 65-40 or 65-35 gram beef. That's about 2 grams of fat to 1 gram of protein. So that's what you look for. So that's what that ends up being. I don't know exactly. So 70-30 is closer to 1-to-1 grams of fat to protein, I think, and if I remember correctly. But just going off of like paleomedicina, they talk about that 35 grams of fatty tissue to 65 grams of lean tissue, and that ends up being, I believe that's 2-to-1. It's in that range, and so you aim for that range, and then you adjust up and down. If your body needs more fat, it needs more fat. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I would go by your stools, as I mentioned. But yeah, that's what that is. So yeah, because all the lean tissue isn't 100% protein, all the fat tissue isn't 100% fat. So yeah, that's correct. There's a specific amount of grams of fat in there, and fat and protein. So yes, so that's that 1-to-1 gram of fat to protein. That's talking about the actual grams of fat and protein, not fat tissue. So that's a good distinction. Thank you. Tanya Butner, thank you for the super chat. Why do I crave sweets after 3 months on carnivore? Could be a lot of reasons. A lot of things are, psychological. We just miss them. Some people have problems with addiction. They feel that they feel addicted to it longer term. Also, if you have cravings, quite often you're just hungry and you're not eating enough. It's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. And so if you find yourself going to like a grocery store and the bakery section, the donuts are, that smells amazing, you're hungry. Like that's all there is to it. Even if you don't feel hungry, you're hungry. And so try eating meat. If it tastes good, that confirms that you're definitely hungry. Keep eating it until it stops tasting good. Generally, if you're keeping yourself well fed, you won't be getting cravings. If you're having artificial sweeteners, even every now and then, that will kick off your cravings again. If you have alcohol, even every now and then, that will kick off your cravings again. So if you are pure 100% carnivore, meat and water only, no additives, no sweeteners, no stevia, no nothing, no electrolytes with stevia, no electrolytes with erythritol and monk fruit sugar and all these sorts of things, nothing besides meat and water, those cravings will go away from an addiction point of view. And if you're getting I really want some sweets, you're hungry. Eat food until you are not getting those cravings, and just make sure you're getting enough. Salty Texas Trucker, thank you for the super chat. Caveman 2 months, awesome. Energy levels have returned, very good. Push-ups, squats, and burpees gave strength back. How do you attain 80% fat, 20% protein? As far as calories, so that's calories of fat to calories of protein, and that relates to grams of fat to grams of protein. So if you're just eating meat, no carbs, and you're eating 2 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein, that's 80% calories from fat, 20% calories from protein, and that's what that shakes out to. So around 65% lean ground beef, right? So 65-35. 60-40, call it. That should get you in that area of 80% calories from fat. That may not be what you need. It may be that you need a slightly different amount of fat. The point is you need enough fat and you need enough protein. Generally speaking, quite often people need about the same amount of grams of fat and protein. So so that's, but you need a certain amount, and that's usually what it shakes out to be, is about that, and that's usually what it sort of breaks down to. But you might be different. You might need a little more protein, you might need a little more fat. So just balance it out on how your body feels. Go by taste, go by your stools, go by your energy levels and how you're feeling, and what makes you feel the best. Let me see here. Just need to check this. Okay, so from YouTube user, no name involved. Question is, have very high beta cytosterol and campisterol. Eliminated carbs in 2014, oxalate seed oils in 2019, 80% carnivore for 1 month, 5'5", 117 pounds. Glucose, 83 to 115, HDL 92, triglycerides 62, highish lipids, but not worried. I don't know what the beta cytosterol and campisterol is. Let me just try to see what that is there. Just like a plant sterol, I guess. So you have high levels of those plant sterols. I'm assuming you're saying that's in your body. Plant sterols mimic cholesterol, and so you're saying that, oh, you should get, if you eat almonds and things like that, it has these plant sterols, and they will basically, your body thinks you have enough cholesterol, so it doesn't make its own cholesterol. That's actually not good. These are used in lieu of that, and they don't work. You can't make hormones out of it. You can't make vitamin D out of it. You can't make proper cells and brain out of it. So it's not great. And so if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like you're saying that you have high levels of those. I don't even know you could test for those. But I would just continue to eliminate any animal or any plant fats and oils. Don't use anything besides plant oil. Don't eat nuts and seeds and all that sort of stuff. You're saying seed oils out in 2019, but if you're eating seeds and you're eating these other sorts of things, they're going to have plant sterols. They're going to have plant fats that have that. So I don't see anything wrong. Your glucose going a bit above 100 occasionally, it's fine. It matters more of the average. HDL is fantastic, 92. Above 40 for a man, above 50 for a woman is excellent. Triglycerides are 62, which is also fantastic. So that's not deranged at all. I think that's excellent. Your HDL is higher than your triglycerides, which means you're very metabolically healthy, and you very likely have pattern A LDL cholesterol. So whatever your LDL is, it's good for you, and it's associated with longevity. So bonus. And plant sterols should hopefully get out of your system eventually. The seed oils and things like that. Omega-6 is always things. They have a long half-life. It can take a while to get out of there. I had no idea you could test for that. I may be misreading that, but that's what it seems like you're saying, is that you've tested for it and you have high levels. But they should eventually go away, but it could take years if there's a long half-life to these things. So just keep doing what you're doing. Don't eat plants. Don't eat any plants that have any oils and any fats in them, and like seeds, nuts, and hopefully this will just eventually get out of your system. And that's the thing, we all have room for improvement. We're all just getting better and better and better. And and that's the thing. You don't just get all the benefits just overnight. These have months that your body is improving, adapting, and changing. You have epigenetic changes and effects. You have hormonal improvements. Those hormones have effects that take months and years to manifest fully. And then you're getting rid of all these toxins that can take years too. So you actually keep getting better as you go. You get a lot of benefit in the beginning. Just stop eating poison. It's never a bad time to stop eating poison, but it keeps getting better after that. Okay. Pamela Barnes, I'm 64, been on carnivore for 3 months and lost 20 pounds. Great. It's great. My first blood work shows better cholesterol, but my BUN creatinine is high, 28 and 31. My phosphorus is low at 2.6. Doctor says to drink more water. Is this common? Well, if your creatinine is high, then you need to drink more water. And that's good that they didn't freak out that your kidneys are bunged up. Urea will go up. Urea is just going to be from eating more protein, and you make more urea from protein, which is good. You like urea. Urea is good for us. It's a very strong antioxidant. And so if your urea goes up, but your creatinine stays down, kidneys are fine. So you go by your EGFR, right? So you're estimating glomerular, I can never say this word, glomerular filtration rate. Jesus, that was the worst time I've ever had with it. EGFR, I'm just going to stick with that now. And that's just the filtration rate. So that's just how much liquid's going through your kidneys. And if that's high, it doesn't matter what your BUN and your urea and all that sort of stuff is. But if your creatinine is high, then that's water. You need to drink more water, and that's exactly right. So it is common for urea to go up. It is common for BUN to go up, but it will not raise your creatinine. Going carnivore will not raise your creatinine. Dehydration will raise your creatinine. And a lot of people don't drink enough water. So yeah, so that's what I would do. But it looks like you're doing great. You're losing weight, bloods are improving, and just need a bit more water. Most people do. John Day, thank you for the super chat. Love you. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You advise someone with gut issues to avoid sulforaphane. Yeah, I would just recommend everyone avoid sulforaphane. I'm on TRT pellets. They make you take DIM/sulfate to avoid estimated age. They make you take that. Okay, so estimated age 30s, testosterone's 150, before TRT, 850 5 months ago, line for 3 months, no recent T-test. Thank you. Yeah, okay, look, so if I don't know why they want you to take that stuff. You can take different kinds of TRT. First of all, you can take transdermal, and that's probably better if you take it right and you don't contaminate other people. Because if you're putting it on your skin and you hug your children, they're going to get a big dose of testosterone. You hug your wife or a loved one, they're going to get it on their skin. And so you need to do it right. You need to do it in the right areas, in the right locations, in the right way, and then you need to wash your hands thoroughly, soap and water, and then not let that part of your body that stuff is on touch other people. But for at least an hour, usually okay after that. So you can do that, and that really fits with your daily patterns of testosterone, because testosterone is a morning hormone. It secretes out maximally in the morning, and then it rises up, causes a lot of action, and it starts coming down, but it has those knock-on effects because it's triggering other things. And so you want that. You want that sort of up and down throughout the day, right? Those are normal patterns. If you're taking like injections and things like that, they can sort of last for a long time. You just wham, and you're up here, and then you just sort of coming down over the course of a couple of weeks or a month. So so that's something anyway. There are other things you can take. It doesn't have to be taken orally. But if you do, and that's how you take it, I guess that's sort of where you're at. But I don't know much about like the pellet side of things. I haven't really seen that. I don't really do much of that stuff, so I don't as part of my practice. But as far as where you're at now, though, you may not even need TRT. Like I've had patients come off TRT in their 60s and 70s and still maintain youthful levels. Not levels that when they were 25. Actually, some did. I've told this story before, but there was a 72-year-old man who went carnivore, literally tripled his testosterone, got back into a level that you'd expect someone in their young adulthood, like in their 20s, to be at. And he was just bouncing off the walls. He was like, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm a kid again. I feel like I'm a teenager again. All I want to do is like work out and and do stuff with my wife. And he used more graphic language than that. But it was great to see because he was doing so well, and he saw no TRT. So we completely derange our body's ability to make hormones normally by eating crap, and even eating just vegetables. They disrupt our hormones. There are phytohormone and hormone mimickers and detractors that damage your hormonal ability, and just carbohydrates in general will drop your testosterone and your growth hormone for men, and will actually raise testosterone in women and lower estrogen and cause PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it's really bad. Stuff is really bad. It's not just a little bad. It's a lot bad. And I think it's the main issue with disease in the world right now. This is the main epidemic that we're treating, is just eating the wrong thing. And so it could very well be that you don't even need to be on this stuff, and you could sort of wean yourself off. You could always take a blood test, see where your testosterone is. If you're taking exogenous testosterone, your body's just going to be like, okay, great. We don't need to make as much. We like this level. But you could see about weaning off and see how your body does. I have had patients actually have a reactive rise in their testosterone, because people don't realize this. They think that if you go on TRT, you can never come off. That's not true, because you're actually resting the gonads, you're resting that organ, so you're making it not work as hard, right? So if you're taking like thyroid hormone, something like that, your thyroid's not working as hard. It doesn't just turn off and go away. In fact, overworking it can burn it out. So if you're taking exogenous testosterone, that can actually rest the gonads, and then when it comes back, it can actually come back better. And I've actually seen that in practice. I've actually seen people come off TRT and their levels are like 400, 450. And when they're on TRT, and there's different levels. So this is in the US or slightly different levels. So in Australia, the reference range is like 250 to 750, but like an optimal range for a 25-year-old would be 600 to 900. This guy was 450 on TRT, right? So he wasn't even up in that youthful level. Came off TRT, and sort of 6 weeks, 2 months later, he was up at 650. So he had a reactive rise. So presumably, you're going to have a bit of a dip, but then your body kicks back into gear and starts going again, because you're not taking steroid crazy levels of someone going for like a fitness competition or the Mr. Olympia, where you can really suppress your body's hormone producing capacity, and it takes longer to come back from that. So as long as you're taking more normal physiological levels, it can actually rest and have a reactive rise in your testosterone. So just be aware of that. And if you want, you can always try. You may be able to come off, may not even need it. You may come off and maybe your levels will be slightly lower, but you feel great and you don't care about it. So just something to think about. And Balecki, thank you very much for the super chat. Both my parents developed dementia and died in their 80s. I'm so sorry to hear that. At 67, what do you recommend I do to hopefully go a different path? Don't eat with AA. Eat fatty meat. Don't eat any carbs. Don't drink alcohol. Don't smoke cigarettes. Don't take drugs. Not that I expect that you do, but really just eat what you're designed to eat. Eat a high-fat carnivore diet. Red meat's the best. A lot of fat. Brain is fat. Brain needs fat. Excuse me. You know, especially these omega-3s, not the plant omega-3s. That's ALA, not DHA or EPA. ALA is great for your heart. It's not good for you. It doesn't do anything for your brain. 20% of your brain is DHA, right? It's a lot. So you need those omega-3s, and that only comes from animal fats. We don't really make much of it ourselves. You have to get it from meat and animal fats. So do that. Don't eat carbohydrates. That's going to shut off your body's ability to make ketones. It's going to shut off your brain, you know, and then you're going to build up insulin resistance. You're going to build up type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's. That is dementia. So that's what I would do. I would get rid of all these things. They're going to damage you. I would eat a high-fat carnivore diet. That is what I've seen this reverse people's dementia. You know, they're going home from nursing homes, right? So that's amazing. So this, you know, if it can fix those people and reverse their condition to the point that they can go home and live independently again, rebuild their brain, this can definitely stop it from happening in the first place. And that's obviously to be desired, to have it not be an issue in the first place. So that is exactly what I would do. Eat a lot of fatty red meat with a lot of nice healthy omega-3s. Don't take a fish oil supplement or an omega-3 supplement. Most of those turn rancid because the omega-3s are actually monounsaturated, and that unsaturated double bond is actually a point of oxidation that can get damaged and turn into nasty things. So get it from meat. You know, have a bit of fish. You don't have to have it every day, especially if you're worried about, you know, heavy metal mercury buildup. So, you know, you just have a bit of fish every now and then, fatty fish, you know, but whole fish. Farm fish is no good. Has to be wild caught, because the farm fish is fed a bunch of pellets and grains and crap like that. They don't have any omega-3s because the omega-3 comes from their diet, their natural diet. You know, wheat pellets are not their natural diet. There's no omega-3s in there. So you need to get real wild caught fish and, you know, beef, lamb, grass-fed and finished to be preferred, that has a better complement of omega-3s. Annabella, the happy carnivore. Good to see you. Thank you, Dr. Anthony, for what you do for our community. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and you're very welcome. I'm glad I could help. I had a run-in with a dietitian today. What about what true health is? I'm day 126 carb. I bet you did. Well, hopefully you made them at least think about things. You know, some people, because this is their profession, they are the expert. They're the expert in the room, in every room they go to, and especially when they're with a patient. That's hard for them. You know, it's hard for people in that position of expertise, that they are the expert to listen to anything that anyone says. But, you know, a major part of medicine is listening to people and seeing what they're experiencing and understanding where they're coming from. And, you know, if you have a patient and you're just saying, hey, we have this treatment, well, this treatment is making me feel bad, it's making me do this, making me do that, you listen to that. No, I'm the expert, it's not going to do that. Okay, but, you know, you need to listen to that, you know, because you need to actually understand that their experiences could be legitimate. And so even though you think that this treatment is safe and the right thing to do and all that sort of stuff, if you're getting patients reporting back that there's something wrong here, something's wrong. And you need to at least entertain that thought. So hopefully they were open-minded enough. But you know, you never know, you know, but you know, maybe you sort of open their mind a bit and just say, well, okay, but what about this? What about this? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? Actually, it's really interesting. You should check it out. You know, it might, if you do it soft enough or convincing enough, it can be, you know, it can be eye-opening. They can take a look at it and then come back to you like, you know what? I think you're onto something. I've looked into it more, and you know, I think there's something to this. And I've certainly had a lot of conversations with dietitians, and one of them even just said to me, they just said that my entire education was a lie. Like, you proved that, you know, you showed me the study, you showed me the evidence. Like, my entire education was a lie. This was all bullshit. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do my job, because in the hospital setting, in the clinic setting, you have to go by the book. You go off the book, you can lose your license, you can lose your job. And so they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. So I sort of feel bad in a way, because now they're sort of at this existential crisis where they didn't know what they were going to do with their life and had to sort of look for a different career path. But ultimately, it's probably better for them and their patients that they did that, because now they can go into a field of nutrition that they can, really help people and help them with the right nutrition. So hopefully yours comes to similar conclusions. Gabriel Lincoln, thank you so much for the super chat. I've been carnivore OMAD 1 meal a day for 2 months, and I've lost 37 pounds. That's awesome. Great job. Previously, I had gout caused by beef, according to the doctors, but not now. Your thoughts? Well, that's funny, isn't it? So they said that beef causes your gout, and yet when you only eat beef and nothing else, gout goes away. Okay, so it's not the beef. Obviously, it's not the meat. It's sugar, carbs, really fructose, and alcohol. Those are the main culprits. People I've seen with gout, some people will report they'll get like a flare-up or two, and then it'll tend to go away. Not everyone does. Quite a lot of the time, gout just goes away. And the thing is, this has been in the literature for, gosh, going on 150 years now. I mean, Dr. Salisbury in the 1800s, that was one of the things he was documented he was curing was gout by putting people on a pure red meat and water diet. So 150 years we've treating people with gout with a pure red meat and water diet, and then all of a sudden you flip and just say, yeah, red meat causes gout. Don't know about that one, Chief. But it's just guilt by association. So you're eating a bunch of red meat, rich food with other sorts of things such as alcohol and all that sort of stuff. So asking if I turned off super chat. No, I did not. Now let's see. Looks like there's a there's another super chat here by Justin Musey. Thank you very much for the super chat, but it didn't get a question attached. It looks like it's lower down. So thank you, Melissa, for sending that. Question is, my grandmother has had and still has polycystic kidney disease for over 15 years, has no kidneys, on dialysis many days a week, still has stools, just no more peeing. Any help? So if her kidneys are gone, I mean, there's nothing probably that can bring that back, unfortunately. Polycystic kidney disease is really damaging. Unfortunately, most people do go on dialysis eventually. There is new research coming out with polycystic kidney disease and ketogenic diet showing that it actually does improve. So could be the point of no return, but it's going to help her anyway. It's not going to hurt her. We know that. It's not going to make her kidney function worse if she has no kidney function, right? So it's going to make everything else better. Can I bring her off dialysis? I have no idea. It's very unlikely. There are 3 cases that I know of people coming off dialysis, going on a carnivore diet. That took like a year, a long time. And but either way, their health improved dramatically the whole time. And there's one gentleman now who was vegan and very sick, a lot of neurological. He was so malnourished that he destroyed his neurological system, and he actually couldn't use his phone at one point. And that's when he realized, I'm killing myself with my diet's killing me. And he started eating meat again. Everything changed, but it's been a long, slow process of rebuilding his body. But it is, which is amazing. He's on dialysis. He's in his 30s. He's on dialysis. He destroyed his kidneys with his vegan diet. It's just so sad. People pushing this vegan diet is the best thing for health and nutrition. And they're fucking killing people. It pisses me off. And thankfully this didn't kill this young man, but it came very, very damn close. 30-year-olds shouldn't be on dialysis, for any damn reason. So anyway, he's starting to make more urine on a carnivore diet. So I'm very hopeful that he can actually regain his independence from dialysis. If your grandmother is if they're just gone. You don't know how much it is gonna come back. I mean, you're saying has no kidneys. I would imagine. I mean, if they've been removed, then that's obviously they're gone. But generally, you don't remove them without replacing. Usually, it's a kidney replacement, kidney transplant. But if they're just not working completely, could they come back? Maybe. I would hope that they would. There's no guarantee for that, but it does improve kidney function in general, and more protein in particular has been shown to improve kidney function. And so if you know, and it will improve her health in 1,000 other ways anyway. It'll make her life much better in many, many other ways. And it's not going to make her worse anyway. So I would still definitely try it with her. I can't say that it's going to get her off dialysis. It probably won't if she's really far gone, but you never know, and it will help her in so many other ways as well. I still think it's very, very much advisable that she try this. Anybody tries this. It's going to be so good for her cognition, her mental health in general, but also her neurological health going forward. It'll prevent her, or at least diminish her chances of developing dementia and Alzheimer's. And so, I mean, there were studies showing that years ago that higher LDL cholesterol levels lowers your risk of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Why are we trying to lower that stuff? And you eat a bunch of cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol doesn't really affect serum cholesterol. Fasting does. You stop eating entirely, your LDL will go up. Your total cholesterol will go up. Is fasting bad for us now? No, of course it's not. But just not eating carbohydrates makes it go up. So you go on a carnivore diet, slams up. It's metabolic. It's not because you're eating more cholesterol and saturated fat. There have been plenty of studies looking at that. One, they fed people 36 eggs a day for weeks. Didn't change their cholesterol at all, right? So, dietary cholesterol has nothing to do really with, or has very little to do, I should say, with serum cholesterol. It's more metabolic. You stop eating carbs, it goes up. Why is that? Okay. So that's what I would do. That's what my parents did it on their own. I didn't push it on them, but I'm very glad they did, and they've improved countless ways. And so I would expect the same. I know the same will happen with your grandmother as well. I know she'll improve. Will she come off dialysis? I have no idea. Odds are she won't, but you never know, and it will help her in many other ways. So good luck with that. And there are studies with polycystic kidney disease improving on ketogenic diets, and carnivore is a ketogenic diet. Big Gelato, good to see you again, buddy. Thanks for the super chat. I thought you were crazy when I saw plans were trying to kill you. My mother and I were open-minded to listen to you. Well, thank you. Just trying to open up conversations really with these. And 28 days later, down 20 pounds, completely done with sugar and carbs. Thanks to milk. That's awesome. That's so good to hear, and that's awesome. 20 pounds in a month. I mean, that's fantastic. So yeah, it does sound crazy. It does sound crazy. I thought my professor was crazy. I thought this was, I thought he was messing with us. And I thought it was a crazy idea, but I was blown away when I heard him say that plants are trying to kill you. And I was just like, but it made sense because I knew botany. And I knew biology, and I was just like, yeah, well, that is right. They do make these defense chemicals, and most plants will kill you. Yeah, they have no problem with you dying if they get to live. No animal in the wild has a problem with you dying if it or its child gets to live. These beautiful herbivores, they're just so majestic and lovely. Get close to one of them, they'll stomp you out. All right. Domesticated animals even can kill farmers and things like that, even though they've raised them from birth and then treated them very well. It's just, it's an animal and it's huge. You get near a wild animal where their life is constantly in danger and being threatened. You get too close, it's like you're a threat, I'm going to stomp you out. So that happens. People get killed by these things. Some of the major killers in Africa, like the big five, are herbivores. Elephants, rhinos, Okay, buffalo, major killer. Hippos, right? Lions are only one of the 5. 4 of those are herbivores. They're not trying to eat you. They're just trying to kill you so you can't eat them. You can't kill them first. So, obviously the same is going to be true of plants, right? So plants have to live too. And yeah, that's just how that goes. So obviously it's the case that they're going to defend themselves, and just recognizing that has literally changed my life and the lives of many, many people around the world, and a lot of my patients too. So thank you for having an open mind. Thank you to your mom for having an open mind and at least entertaining the idea and seeing if it works for you. Because again, if it doesn't matter what your study says, if you experiment and you try and you get the exact opposite results, study sucks. That's all there is to it. John W., thank you for the super chat. Hi, doctor. My family doctor says if I eat so much red meat, it will cause me to get colon cancer. Where does this come from? What is my counter argument? So look, there's a can't remember what video would I have this on. I have some on my cancer videos, like with Professor Thomas Seyfried. Should be down there. There should be some things on red meat and not causing colon cancer. There's one from the University of Washington that just came out sort of last year. I'll have to go back and update, make sure that that's on the cancer ones. But anyway, you look up, go to Google Scholar, look up University of Washington, Seattle study on red meat and not causing colon cancer. They did a massive study looking at over 800 studies, and they found that the ones that even had a weak association with meat, they're very poor junk study. They call them junk science, junk studies, junk science. They have all these confounding factors. People that ate more red meat, they were counting pizza and hamburgers and lasagna and other sorts of things, sandwiches, as red meat. Right? There's a lot of other things in there too. So if you're eating junk food, you're going to McDonald's, they're like, oh, you eat red meat. What? What if you got just a McFlurry? It's just no red meat in there, but it doesn't matter. You go to fast food, that counts as red meat. So it's bullshit. And the people that eat that way are more likely to smoke and drink and do other sorts of behaviors that will increase their risk for cancers of all descriptions. And so they're junk. They're junk crap studies. The ones that corrected for those confounder found there's no association between even processed meat and cancer, and certainly nothing with unprocessed red meat. So unfortunately, this is just one of those myths in medicine that just keeps going around. It was made worse by the WHO in 2015, putting processed meat on the causes cancer list and the red meat on the probably causes cancer risk sheet. But that was complete bullshit. That panel that decided that was majority people by vegans, vegetarians, and Seventh-day Adventists, who are vegans, vegetarians by religion because they think that meat is sinful. Okay, there were other people not of that description on the panel, and they came out and said that was the hardest thing they've ever had to do professionally in their professional career, because they saw countless high-level, good quality, well-designed studies showing no association at all between meat, and especially red meat, and cancer or colon cancer or any other cancers, being thrown away, and really poor, crappy junk science with all these confounding factors that we talked about being included because it had a very slight increase, like literally 18%. If it's an epidemiological study, if it's not above 200%, it's a bad signal. You don't even listen to it. So it's 18%. It's nothing. It's background noise, right? But they're saying that makes it a carcinogen. Not even maybe a carcinogen. This causes cancer. It's bullshit. So find that University of Washington study on cancer and red meat that just came out last year, I believe. Last year or the year before. Recent anyway, very recent. And they went through all the studies. And so you just come at it like that. And you can probably try and find, I can't remember the guy's name, but if you look up Belinda Fettke, Fettke, she did a whole talk on Seventh-day Adventists and their control from the beginning on our nutritional guidelines, and their control and founding and inventing the processed food industry, like Kellogg's and Sanitarium Foods and 20 other cereal manufacturers. So she names the guy. I can't remember the guy's name offhand, but she references that. So go to her YouTube channel. I think she just has the one YouTube video on that channel, and it's fantastic. I did a talk about this, all that stuff I learned from her and other sort of sources, but 90% of what I talked about was stuff that I learned from her on that video. So that's a better source. She goes into better detail and greater detail than I did. So I mean, I talk about some different things, but she really hammers it home. It's excellent. It's an excellent talk, and she talks about that, how that guy on that WHO panel was just like, this is the worst experience of my life. This was complete crap. So watch that, and maybe get your doctor to watch that too, so you can understand what he's recommending to people is biased and corrupted, and find that guy's name, and you can find that story about him talking about that, and then get that study from University of Washington, from UW, and just bring it to him and say, hey, look, I don't agree, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And if you watch the Thomas Seyfried, my interview with Thomas Seyfried, Seyfried, on cancer, and you learn about cancer biology and how cancer actually works, how it's actually fed by carbohydrates and glutamine. There's glutamine in every protein source, and you make it, and you can cook it out of your food as well. So that's not going to be a problem for most people, and and understand exactly how cancer works, and hopefully get your doctor to look at that too, because people are helping their cancer by eating red meat. So it's just, it needs to be changed. But I don't fault your doctor for saying that. That's a commonly held misconception, but it is a misconception. And it's not based on good science. It's based on a theory. It's based on accusation, and it's based on propaganda. And that's a matter of record. Okay, all right, guys. So we have about 30 minutes to go, and then I'm going to have to take off. Let me just set a timer here, just so we don't go over. Okay. Ominous. Hello, Dr. Chaffee. I have episodic cluster headaches and Horner syndrome. I have spent a fortune and nothing has helped. I'm considering carnivore, but know very little. Can you speak on this subject? Thank you very much. So cluster headaches, a lot of things that can cause headaches, pretty complex field, but there are a lot of people that improve their headaches dramatically with a carnivore diet and a ketogenic diet in general. You're removing different toxins and inflammatory factors that improve headaches. Also, there's about 100 years of clinical data on migraines in particular being helped by ketogenic diets, as well as epilepsy, and a lot of things that help epilepsy help migraines, and vice versa. And so I would expect that to help. Get rid of everything, get rid of coffee, drink a lot of water. Water is very important for headaches. Just eating meat, fatty meat, your brain running on ketones, and Horner syndrome. Depends on what's causing the Horner syndrome. Generally, that's a pressure. You're pushing on the sympathetic chain, and you're getting a Horner syndrome. So it depends on what's causing that. I don't know how long you've had the Horner syndrome or what's causing that, but your doctor should look into that and see, like, why do you have Horner syndrome? Sometimes you have something, pressing sort of an apical lung, pressing on that chain, that sympathetic chain, and causing that Horner syndrome. So if you don't have a diagnosis for why the Horner syndrome is there, get that checked. But definitely the cluster headaches can help. I mean, I don't know what's causing your Horner syndrome, so I can't speak to that. But I can say for sure that it will help you in so many other ways that the Horner syndrome will be much less of a problem. And if it helps with the cluster headaches, that's a big bonus too. But your life will improve a lot. Your health will improve a lot. You will get to a point where you feel better than you ever have in your entire life. And so that's always going to be good, even if it doesn't fix all the problems you set out to fix. If it's helping you in so many other ways, it's improving your life. It's improving your life, and that's the main thing. So I would definitely try it. I mean, give it 30 days. Just just pure red meat and water, or just pure meat and water for 30 days. Red meat's going to give you better outcomes. Fatty, lots of fat. You'll feel better. You'll feel a lot better. And so just see how you feel. See what your body's doing, and give it 30 days. And if that's good and you feel better, keep going. Because this is a lifelong thing. You stop drinking leaded water, and you stop having lead poisoning, and you go back to drinking the same water, you're going to get the same problem, right? So, it's just something that is sort of a lifestyle, and if it's helping your life and you're feeling better, and it's helping your lifestyle, improving your lifestyle, then just keep doing it. But yeah, try it for 30 days, see how you go. I would expect you to have significant improvements, and good luck with that. Let me know how that goes. Debbie Lee, thank you so much for the super chat. Very generous of you. I love the carnivore diet. Good. First month was amazing. As I turned the corner leading into the second month, I started getting headaches and muscle aches. I've been pretty strict on the diet except for eggs, some raw milk, and bacon in the morning. Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. If you think about if anything you've added in, if you've added in anything, if you added in the milk or you added in the eggs or anything else, even bacon. I mean, I don't. Most people won't have a problem with bacon. I don't have a problem with nitrates or nitrites. You make them. Your saliva makes it's in your saliva. The studies that vilified it in the first place were pretty bogus. Dr. Berry does a great video on this. It's like 5 years ago or something like that he did it, and it just, what's it called? It's like eat your bacon or something like that. But it basically shows the lie about nitrates. And like vegetables have way more nitrates than bacon does. And we've been using nitrates to preserve meat 3,000 years, something like that. So, why is it causing a problem now and not before? So, but either way, if you react, you react. Some people do. And so you can try eliminating those things out. Try just being just strict meat and water. Get rid of the milk. That can be very inflammatory for people, and especially if you've added in the raw milk, definitely get rid of it. So anything you changed in that second month, try to get rid of that. Headaches, muscle aches is a bit strange. Generally, that has to do with something you're bringing in your body that you're reacting to, and you're building up inflammation. And so, you want to try to identify that as well. But that's really it. I mean, from what you're telling me, I don't have much else to go on. But any sort of supplements, don't drink coffee, don't drink tea, no artificial sweeteners. Definitely, those can cause problems. And yeah, the headaches is a bit weird. Headaches and muscle aches are very weird unless you're bringing in something. So, if you're I can't say for sure just from reading this if you've added in the eggs and the raw milk and the bacon in that second month. If you have, get rid of them. And either way, get rid of them. Just go back to baseline. Just go back to just red meat and water, fatty red meat and water. Make sure you're eating enough. Make sure you're getting enough water, and just eliminate out anything that you could be putting in your body that could be giving you a reaction of headaches and muscle soreness and aches, because that's very strange. Usually those go away. And give it another couple weeks with just the meat and water, and hopefully that resolves. Headaches, muscle aches could be actually being exposed to some sort of virus as well. It happens. We feel very different when we get sick. I sort of just feel a bit tired and just a bit out of it. I can get a bit of stiffness and soreness. I got a headache when I had the vid. I had pretty bad headaches for a few days. That was pretty much it. That was really my main symptom. I was tired and I had headaches. So that's another possibility as well. just go back down to baseline fatty red meat and water, and hopefully this will pass. I would expect it to pass, because there's nothing in there that's causing problems. So if you're sick or you're fighting something off, that will pass. If it's something that you've been eating, like the eggs and raw milk or bacon or whatever, something in the bacon, a lot of times they add sugar and things like that, then getting rid of that will help as well, and sort of work your way out of the system. So hopefully that does resolve that. If it doesn't, you're just red meat and water and all those sort of things, and you don't think it's an illness, and you're going on for a month, get your blood work checked, see if there's some sort of weird deficiency that you're getting, and just make sure that you aren't low on something else, and maybe add in a bit of liver once or twice a week to head that off now, just in case. But if that persists, I would then turn to blood tests and see if your doctor has any idea of why you're having so many headaches and muscle aches and things like that. Good luck with that. Question from Robin. Dad is a 79-year-old carnivore. Great. For 1 month, diabetic, off insulin now. Whoa, awesome. For 1 month, that's great. Fasting glucose is 100 to 130, so maybe a bit early to come off insulin. Does protein cause it? Keep injecting insulin with reduced dose. A1C was not. A1C is 9. 1 month average 6. Great. Yeah. So look, you can't come off your medications right away. A lot of people do come off their insulin, but in that carnivore study, 100% of diabetics came off of all injectables. Fantastic. But it takes time. It take more than 1 month. So if your fasting glucose is that high, then you still need some medication to help with that. Protein, yes, can cause a bit of a bump. And if you don't have enough insulin and you're insulin resistant and all these sorts of things, you're going to get a bigger bump, and your body's not going to be able to compensate for it. So I wouldn't come off the insulin altogether. You still need to take enough insulin to control the blood sugars, and eventually it's most likely that he will be able to come off of that completely. But you can't just jump into it. If he still needs insulin, he still needs insulin. So keep that blood sugar below 100. Between 80 and 100, 60 and 100, or something like that. It's just in that range. Good range, and just use the amount of insulin that he needs. Generally, be like a background dose, like Antis or whatever long acting that he takes. Generally, don't need fast acting for meals. In general, but just see how it goes. So you have to treat these things on a case-by-case basis, and give him the amount of medications that he needs, and then eventually he should be able to come off, and hopefully he does. Good luck with that. Good luck to him. GF89, thank you very much for the super chat. Hello, I am currently 2 days post spinal fusion. Big surgery. Hope you're doing well. In pre-op tests, my creatine levels or creatinine levels, showed quite high. I believe 16.5 milligrams per deciliter. Can this be caused by heavy weightlifting? They advised this was borderline and to proceed with the operation. Yeah, so that's just to do with your kidney function. Yes, if you're lifting heavy, you're going to have muscle breakdown, and you can build up creatinine. You run a marathon or something like that, you can really build up your creatinine. You get something called rhabdomyolysis. If you really overwhelm your kidneys, treatment for that is just water. It's hose in water, fluids, right? And so I had this guy in the ER once when I was in my second year, and he ran a marathon. He had low-grade rhabdomyolysis, and so his creatinine was way up, and it was just like, okay, so just we need to hydrate you. We just need to get water. And he's just like, oh, well, I'm definitely hydrated enough. I'm like, well, buddy, you're not. Like, it's just, that's why you're here. So the thing is, you can overwhelm even good hydration if you really overdo it. So for you and your effort level and what you're doing, you weren't hydrated enough, and your kidneys got bogged down, and you got an acute kidney injury. Sorry, treatment for that, guess what? Water. So same thing. So if you were lifting heavy, doing a lot of heavy weights and things like that, yes, that can raise your creatinine. But again, the treatment is water. Just get a lot of water. and get that in you, and you should be fine. Carnivore diet won't cause that. Raise your urea, won't raise your creatinine. Not enough water, heavy exercises, heavy workouts, marathons, things like that, that will raise your creatinine. So just you need to make sure that you're hydrated and properly hydrated for what you're doing. And good luck in your recovery. If you're doing carnivore, I think you're going to recover a lot faster than you would otherwise. And so good luck with that. I hope it goes well. Michael Jackson, back from the dead. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for the super chat. I notice on a lot of these forums that a lot of people don't talk about carnivore being really the only treatment for visceral fat, organ fat. Yeah, fat around the organs. Is that a real Japanese katana on the bookshelf? Yeah, so that actually came from the Tokyo Samurai Museum. So they make these replicas. So that was a replica of a shogun's sword from, I think, the 1400s. So that's a replica of a real sword. So it's a replica. Haven't got it sharpened. I don't know if it's legal to get them sharpened, but you probably could. But yeah, so that's real. That came from the official Samurai Museum in Japan, where they make these things, which is really cool. It was actually a gift, which is very nice. Yeah, carnivore being really the only treatment for visceral fat. So it's a major one. It's a major treatment for visceral fat, and visceral fat is that fat around the organs. This is something we went into detail with Dr. Sean O'Mara, who's sort of the expert on visceral fat and reducing it. And he came to carnivore from that direction. I came to it from the plants are trying to kill you, and this is our biological origins. And he came from it from this is the best way to get rid of visceral fat, and visceral fat is really bad for you. And so he did a study with the National Institutes of Science with over 6,000 patients doing MRIs looking at visceral fat, and found it was directly related with metabolic disease, and that targeting that and reducing visceral fat eliminated metabolic disease. And so fantastic. And he found that a carnivore diet was the best diet to eliminate visceral fat. But there are other things as well. That's high intensity exercise like the sprinting and the weightlifting to failure, even if it's just push-ups. You do a set of push-ups to failure. That's it. One set to failure 3 times a week. Set of squats, 1 set to failure 3 times a week. Set of sprints, to failure, 3 times a week. You're going to really improve your life, your metabolism, your health, your hormones, and your visceral fat. And yes, I think that's a very important thing. So spread it around. Carnivore diet is a really important tool for eliminating visceral fat. It's really the best diet for that. Ketogenic diets would probably work pretty well as well. Just getting rid of alcohol and fructose and lowering your insulin and cortisol is going to help with that as well. And that's going to obviously have huge knock-on effects to your overall metabolic health as well. But carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet. It's the best ketogenic diet because you're eliminating everything that you don't want, not just carbohydrates. So yes, very good point. Visceral fat is best treated with a carnivore diet. I'm going to see here. So I'm going to see if I can turn off the super chats because I think we have enough time to get through ones, but don't want to have people. Let me see. There we go. I'm not seeing where I can turn off super chats. It's a bit annoying. Participants, timestamps. Okay. Well, I can't see where to turn off super chats. I don't know how to do that. Well, all right. We'll just announce. Trying to put any more super chats in. If somebody knows how to turn off super chats, maybe tell me. But otherwise, I'll get through these super chats. But I've got about sort of 10, 15 minutes max to get through these. So we're going to cut off. So it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more super chats. We're going to do those, and then we'll call it a night or a day or an evening or whatever it is for you. Edison Twain, thank you for the super chat. I don't know what MX is. That's interesting though. Is that? maybe Mexico, I don't know. Is pork lard a good alternative to beef tallow and ghee? Yes, it is. It does depend on what the pig's being fed. If they're fed a bunch of horrible things that they're not supposed to eat as well, then they'll have actually higher levels of linoleic acid. They're going to be getting these plant oils and bad things that we don't want from the seed oils. They're going to get those. They can't process them right. That goes in their fat. And so pork and chicken will have higher levels of linoleic acid, omega-6s. So it does depend on where the pig pork lard comes from. It is a good alternative. It is still good. It should be. I mean, it's going to be better than any cooking oil. It's going to be better than any other vegetable oils. But it could very well be from one of these factory farmed processes where they have a lot of linoleic acid and things like that. So do try to source that from a somewhere that doesn't have, that it's not being fed a whole bunch of crap as well. But in general, it should be better, yes. Okay, X-Red Demon, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you, Chaffee, for spreading the truth. There are 0 studies on the carnivore diet. When are we going to get some studies on the carnivore diet? The results will be too staggering to be ignored. Well, there's one study. It's at Harvard. It's the carnivore study. It's just a dietary personal dietary review sort of survey, dietary survey, which people then say, oh, that's a terrible survey. Like, well, that's what you do for all the other nutritional surveys. That was sort of invented by Walter Willett, who's like the head nutritional researcher at Harvard, and no one's complaining about it when it's used to do a study that fits their narrative. So you don't really get to complain about it, after the fact. But there are more and more pieces of information coming together, and I agree we should have things that are just on carnivore. But the thing is, the carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet. And what do you do when you take away carbohydrates? You have to replace it with fat and protein. What's the best source of that? Meat. And so we have thousands and thousands and thousands of studies showing clinical trials in humans, interventional trials, right? In humans, with showing high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diets dramatically improve health outcomes and can even reverse different diseases like diabetes, which is why the epidemiology report from Harvard saying that red meat causes diabetes is wrong on its face, because we have clinical data, experimental data, which is much higher level of evidence in humans, showing that putting somebody on a high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diet reverses diabetes. So it goes away. So the meat is not causing it. Fat is not causing it. Red meat in particular is not causing it. So you can glean a lot of information from this. Literally thousands of studies on ketogenic diets and high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diets showing marked improvements in people's health. So that's what we have for now. But the good thing about that, the carnivore study at Harvard, and the good thing about this gaining popularity now, is I talk to researchers, I talk to nutritionists, I talk to people going through medical school now, I talk to people who are doctors who are going through getting their nutrition PhD right now, and they're really interested in this. And they're saying, we need more studies on this. We should do this. I'm a researcher. I'm going to do the research, which is amazing. And so it will come. I guarantee you there are things in the works right now. And hopefully those just start coming out and coming out and coming out. I think there's enough evidence here, more than enough evidence, to apply this to my practice, and certainly to my life and to my practice. And I've seen the benefits of that. So I'm happy, with the amount of evidence that there is, and I'm happy to treat patients that way. And I'm seeing the direct results of that, and that's just reinforcing, my beliefs in this. But yeah, I think studies are great, and maybe, I was thinking of doing something, tracking some of my patients, publishing, case series analyses on my patients who have gone carnivore and the dramatic improvements that they've had. See if I can put that together. But an interventional trial would be great, wouldn't it? Get get people on, different cohorts. You have patients that are trying to lose weight or doing whatever, or they have health issues, and you put them on a vegetarian diet, plant-based diet, whatever one you put it on, it'll be the wrong one if it doesn't win, right? There's always going to be someone, oh, that's not the one I would do, right? Well, there are 340,000 plants in the world. Which ones are the right ones? It doesn't matter. If it doesn't come out with the way they want, that's not the right one, right? Always, because this is an ideology that they're trying to push, and they're trying to sell something. Then, it should sell itself. Carnivore sells itself. You don't have to sell it. You just try it. It works. You get better. People around you are coming out of nursing homes, getting rid of chronic diseases, getting rid of autoimmune issues, getting rid of major issues, and it works. You don't need to convince anyone of that. It is convincing, And then people going plant-based for those same reasons. They get a honeymoon period where they're just getting less processed garbage and alcohol and things like that out of their system, and they're eating a more whole food approach. They have a healthy user bias. They're working out more. They're feeling better because of all those other things that they're doing as well. And then it starts catching up and get worse. And that poor kid, I was speaking about earlier on dialysis in his 30s and almost died. That happens, and that kid's life was taken away from him. Thankfully, not completely. He's regaining it, but that guy lost years. He's never going to be as healthy as he would have been, but he can be a lot healthier than even if he was eating a normal diet and just not a vegan diet. So he can still get better than the norm for sure. But that causes serious damage. Put him on dialysis. Will he come off dialysis? I hope so, but can't say that. It's you ask a nephrologist, can you come off dialysis? No, absolutely not. Can't happen. Well, that's because it's very unlikely, but no one's ever tried this before. And I've seen 3 people. Well, maybe, people watching this, do you know someone who's come off dialysis? Have you come off dialysis? I've seen it 3 times now in 6 years, but those are the only ones that I've heard of, so it could be happening more than that. And there's this young man and another one who are actually improving. They're, increasing the amount of urine that they're making. So there's something coming back to life there. Can it come all the way back? I don't know. But, there is something there. So, but yeah, I agree. It would be great to get some bigger studies on this, more well-designed, controlled trials on this, interventional trials, higher levels of evidence, not epidemiology. That's exactly what I want as well. And, but yeah, that would be great. It'd be great to get that out there, because I agree. It's going to be nuts. Tina Stokes, thank you for the super chat. My grandma has been on carnivore for 3 weeks, and she's so weak and is going to stop. She thinks she's too old at 89. So really need to make sure that she's eating the right things. She needs to make sure she's eating enough. So easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. And so she's not going to feel hungry. So you have to get her to eat, try 3 times a day, bacon and eggs in the morning, some fatty steak or ground beef at lunch. Fatty though, has a lot of fat, as fatty as you can get it from the store, like 70-30 or greater if you can get it from the butcher, and melt butter into it. Tastes amazing. Don't cook it all the way through. Have it still be a bit soft and pink or red in the middle, as long as it's not contaminated. And then and something else for dinner as well. Make sure she's trying to eat at least 3 times a day. Most people just need to eat once a day, but you need to know how much you need to eat. And most elderly people, like an 89, definitely undereating. Almost all of them are. They're all sarcopenic. They're all completely skinny and very, very, very fragile. So she's probably undereating anyway. She's definitely undernourished. She needs to eat a lot. She needs a lot more. Her hunger signal is going to be very different. She's not going to feel hungry. Well, I just eat when I'm hungry, eat as much as I'm hungry for. No, eat 3 times a day and eat until fatty meat, eggs or bacon, stop tasting good. So if she had a piece of bacon and said, that was a nice piece of bacon, make more bacon, right? She should get to the point that she doesn't want to continue, that she takes a bite and goes, didn't really enjoy that. She shouldn't stop because she thinks she should stop because she doesn't feel hungry. If it tastes good, she's hungry. She needs to understand that, and she needs to eat that. Also, if she's coming from a poor nutritional background, she could be deficient in other things as well, namely B12. You can get these things checked. You check her B12 or folate. If those are low, supplement. Get her a B12 shot. Most people her age and in her situation will be low B12 and cholesterol, low B12. So you need to make sure that she's got enough of that. At 89, people have absorption issues, which is another reason why you really want to eat just red meat, because it's the most bioavailable stuff out there. But even then, even if you're getting most bioavailable stuff and adding a bit of liver, have a bit of liver mixed in there as well, that can help as well with absorption. It's more nutrient dense. So check all those things. Make sure she's getting enough food. Make sure she's getting enough fat. Make sure she has enough B12. Make sure her bloods aren't out of whack for another reason. She might feel a bit more tired and lethargic after a fatty meal. Make sure you sort of, she sees that and recognizes that it might not be, it may just be nothing more than that. And then you can just sort of recognize that and adjust that as possible. She's not too old for this. She's the perfect age for this. It's never too late to stop eating poison and to get this stuff out of her system and get proper nutrition for her brain and her body. She will get better. Just need to make sure she has enough nutrients, enough fat, enough meat, enough water, sleeping properly, things like that, and B12. That's one that will just wake up your brain and your energy. Like if you have really low B12 and you have trouble absorbing it, and most elderly people have problems absorbing everything, including B12. She's going to have horrible energy. And so I would definitely check her B12, or even just get her B12 shot with a doctor. They may not want to. Maybe different nutritionists or health food stores or pharmacies or something like that will give out B12 shots. But I mean, check the B12 anyway and get a B12 shot. She's definitely low. Everyone's low unless they're on a carnivore diet with proper nutrition and liver. And some people on a carnivore diet still need to have a bit of liver. So I would do that. Good luck with that. Okay, very last question, then I've got to run. FJ, thank you very much for the super chat. My brother's 39 years old, has severe psoriasis for 25 plus years, and was recently diagnosed with gout. Doctor has him on the Mediterranean diet to save his heart. Mediterranean diet is meat, by the way. Read the Odyssey. See what they ate in the Mediterranean. It was meat. I'm telling him to go carnivore. Who should he listen to? He should listen to you. He should listen to history. He should listen to biology. The Mediterranean diet doesn't mean anything. Which Mediterranean diet? South of France, Italy, Morocco, Egypt. These are all in the Mediterranean. So the real Mediterranean diet is very strongly meat-based. Watch my interview with Dr. Bill Schindler called what they really eat in the blue zones, because he was just in the blue zones studying these people. They predominantly eat meat. He said that they eat more meat than him, right? They eat some plants. They're not 100% carnivore, but it's like fresh tomatoes, basil, and some olives, and that's pretty much it. The rest of it's meat. It's just a bunch of meat, and they all have pigs. They all have lambs. They like cows, all these sorts of things. It's just meat all over the place. And then every week they have a big all-day barbecue with a whole lamb on a spit, and the whole family comes and enjoys the day. So it's the Mediterranean diet is a meat-based diet, and so that's what you should do. Psoriasis and gout, I mean, they go away. They go away with carnivore diet. So check the different forums, check different Facebook groups with tens of thousands of people, and say, hey, anyone here with psoriasis, found benefit from carnivore diet? You will find hundreds of people that have helped that, and same with gout. So that's what I would recommend. Okay, all right, guys, thank you so much. I have to end it there because I have a meeting that I have to jump to right now. So really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for submitting questions. Thank you all for the super chats. It's very kind of you. And hopefully that was helpful to people, and hopefully you all liked it and got something out of it. And I will see you next week for another live, same time, same channel, and we'll have another YouTube premiere. So I'm going to do these twice a week on Sundays and Wednesdays, Pacific Standard Time. so in America, and then Monday mornings, Thursday mornings for me here in Australia. And yeah, and I'll try to do the HALS one with the getting people home from nursing homes. Try to do that this week as well. So please, everyone, if you can make it out to those, premieres, that's really helpful, and because it really drives up the algorithms and everything like that, and gets it out to more and more people. And yeah, great. Hope to see you guys there, and have a great weekend.
You stop eating carbohydrates, you make all the carbohydrates, glucose, glycogen, ketones that you need, and you have an unlimited source and supply, because you have over 10 times the amount of energy, even on a skinny person that doesn't have all that tofu fat. Just a slim person, you have 10 times the amount of energy in your fat supply than you will in your glycogen.